extremely live. Welcome to another stream. Welcome to the Council of Tolkien. I have with me, you cannot see them, but I have Matt and Sid with me. They have their rings on right this moment, but gentlemen, greet our peoples. From the realm of Florida, Sirius Campus. Oh man, I've been I've been in and out of like meetings all day, so this is nice to sit and stream with you. Have that up. I'm trying to get the YouTube. Here we go. There we go. Lovely. All right. All right. Well, welcome to another stream. I'm going to be just getting the word out on social media and stuff. I forgot to post a reminder today that we were going to be live on my YouTube posts. That's unfortunate. I was very busy. Just been a okay. Spread the news around. There we go. Sit in. There we go. Now I can see you guys. Okay. And I shall post on. Sure. Okay, so how are you guys doing? Ted with the watch streak. Hey, Ted. That's always good. I hate it when you work with people and you don't get along with them. You know, that makes it difficult. It can be extremely difficult, actually. I had this job, Sid, at a brain injury center where you took care of people's brain injuries, right? Hey, kids, how's it going? Talk about perfect timing. Nice. There was this one guy there, young fellow, not the brightest, but whatever. And within just a few weeks of being hired, he was promoted to supervisor, which is obviously very suspicious. Turns out, he's just like best friends with like one of the other supervisors, and that's what happened there. But you think, okay, well, just because somebody's got their job as the result of nepotism or favoritism does not necessarily mean that they're going to be bad at it. You might be brilliant at it. I'm willing to give anybody a chance. Well, it was sort of like if you put, Saruman in charge of your garden. Just gonna rip up all the flowers and pave over it and proclaim that it's better than ever. So, and I famously clashed with this guy. And at one point, I told the head supervisor, who was like his best friend, I said, "You keep that guy away from me." I said, "You keep that guy away from me, because I tell you, he's gonna say the wrong thing, and it's not gonna end well for him." You know. Mm. Oh. Yeah. I hear a cat. Is that? Do you have a cat, Sid? Oh. And how about you, Matt? How you been doing? It's depressing because it was yours, or well, if it's a good amount of money, then you got to take it, right? Yeah. Wow. Well, you got the one you like more, you know. You can't ride you can't ride two motorcycles at once. Oh, because I was thinking of only one hand may wield a ring, Saruman. So what is all this talk of we? It, yeah. There's emotions. I get it. There's a there's emotions. You're at least a little bit, which is fine. You ow. Was he able to save the finger, or is that gone? Damn, that's that's awful. You got to take all the proper precautions. Tolkien Thursday, indeed, Ted, indeed. Um, we had a motorcycle in the garage. My father bought when he had his late life crisis. You know, he always wanted a motor. He goes out, he buys his Harley. He doesn't know how to ride it. Uh, twice he dumped it on the way home. You know, my mother told him you're not allowed to ride it until you take a class and pass it. He never did. So he never. So he bought this thing. The only time he rode it was riding at home, and like I said, he dumped it twice. So it sat in the garage for years. He died, and it sat in the garage for a few more years. And then my mother was like, "I just want this thing gone." So my sister tried to be the one to facilitate selling it, but she started trying to try to squeeze a little more out of people. Like she wasn't being totally honest with, with the condition that it was in and stuff like that. So that people would come. Yeah, well, well, the thing is, it was dumped twice, so that there was some scratching on it, right? Not anything. Hey, Moogle, not anything major, of course, but but she tried to play down, the damage that was on it and such, and people don't appreciate that when they come to they come to you to see something, and then it's not what you told them, or it's not in the condition that you told them it was in, and then of course they're not going to be interested. So eventually, my mother put me in charge of getting rid of it, and I got rid of it. I called the dealership he bought it from, and I said, "You want this thing back?" And we set up a date to do it, and we got my neighbor to help us get it there, and that was it. Hey, Deb, how's it going? This was a Harley. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. My father, he always wanted a Harley Davidson motorcycle, but I think what he didn't want was to learn how to ride it. He just wanted it. It was the childhood or adolescent dream of having that. Yeah. I You know what's funny is I when I was a kid, very very small boy, Um, I'll tell you that one of the maladies that I had was I was very startled by loud noises. Still am to a certain extent. Not as bad, but it used to be that if something was loud, that meant it was scary. And I remember saying as a boy of about 7 or 8 years old how much I just hated motorcycles because they were just so loud and so frightening to me. And I said I would never want to be on a motorcycle because imagine it's even louder when you're, on top of it. And my mother says, "Yeah, we'll see what you're saying when you're about 15 years old, right?" About 15 years old. No, still seems like a terrible idea because it just doesn't seem safe like at all to me, like at least with a car there's like a bunch of metal surrounding you and you stand some kind of chance there. Yeah. Yeah. That's a great answer. I have seen videos of dogs who ride skateboards. And I'm not talking about they get on it and they just roll forward and then hop on. They can steer it somehow. And I'm just amazed by it when I see these dogs. And I saw this one that it wasn't a skateboard, but it was like this. It's like a board, but it has like one big wheel in the middle of it. I don't know exactly what it's called, but it was a dog that was on it, a pit bull. He knew how to speed up. He knew how to slow down. He knew how to stop it. He knew how to turn it. It was amazing. Yeah. Yeah, because you could see him leaning forward to go faster and then leaning back. I'm like, how do you even teach a dog? I guess that you just put the dog on it and he figures it out. No. Look, they're closer to the ground. They're closer to the ground. They have a lower center of gravity. I wouldn't get on one of those things. Hey, Wayne, how's it going? The window in the way. Let me get rid of that. There we go. Oh, like out of the BC comics, you're right. Because they had those like the big wheel sort of thing, except this was more like rubber and plastic. No, we're gonna start a moment. We're just letting people get in here. Hey, David, how's it going? Yes, there was a video game like that, BC: The Quest for Wheels. That's true. All right, so we're gonna come on over to Council Tolkien screen, which is right here, so they can see you now. And welcome in, everybody. We are the Council of Tolkien. Let's go around the horn and introduce ourselves one by one, even though I tend to think most people here know who we are. But we'll start from left to right as we normally go. So, Matt, you're first. Hold on a sec. Hey, Matt, could you hold on for a second? I gotta fix. Okay, so the chat is telling me they can't hear you, and I just realized that is completely my fault. Okay, I am very sorry to everybody that came to the stream that just heard me having conversations with Matt and Sid, and you were not able to hear Matt and Sid. My bad. Thank you for telling me. Matt, could you start that over? I had a different setting because I was doing something else earlier, so go ahead.
Oh, good, John. Anyway, welcome. Good evening, everybody. I'm on the West Coast. It's about 4:45, and I would just say that I'm Matt Richardson. I go by Lore Master on Quora. We run a writers consortium there of 9 writers, and the 9 of us have a leadership group. We're the leadership group. You're looking at the 3 of us right here. But the nine of us are probably in the top 15 most read writers on Quora, if anybody knows where that is. Quora. It's the thinking person's platform, really, for expertise on things like this and
We'll
other
see
things.
see how much longer that lasts.
Yeah, well, we got issues, and maybe we'll talk about that before we start. But anyway, welcome tonight. That's who we are, and thanks for stopping by tonight.
Kits was wondering why I was talking to myself. I wish you had
Wouldn't be
said
the
something
first time.
earlier. Okay. Well, I guess I'll introduce myself. I'm the guy that you've been hearing talking to himself for the past 15 minutes, referring to two guys named Matt and Sid who are apparently phantoms, but now I have manifested them with the power of my mind. My name's John Sierra. I'm a Tolkien scholar, and I have been studying Tolkien since I was a very young boy. I read The Hobbit when I was around 7 years old. I read The Lord of the Rings when I was around 10 years old. I read Unfinished Tales when I was around 12 years old. And that's where it really started, when I read Unfinished Tales. So I've been studying Tolkien for decades. And yeah, and I also am on Quora and I'm on YouTube. And I run a space on Quora called The Grey Havens. You could find the link to all that stuff in the description of this. Hey there, Muddle. How's it going? But you guys know who I am. I'm not going to take up a lot of time here. Sid, go ahead.
I'm Sid Kemp on Quora and also on Archive of Our Own, where I publish Tolkien fanfic. I've knocked off several thousand answers to Tolkien questions for y'all. And basically, my journey started at a summer camp where The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings got passed around. And I had a list of questions in my head. And I went to Moonstone Booksellers in Washington, D.C., and ordered the first edition, first printing of the Silmarillion, and found all of my answers to everything Tolkien was talking about, and actually my answers to how to live a wonderful and true life as well. And that's what I'll be talking about tonight.
Sid, that's I'd never heard before that you first read the books when you were in summer camp. That's the first time you're revealing that, at least to us.
Yeah.
And it's just funny because I went to summer camp once and nobody was reading anything, unfortunately. It's like
Oh,
very
I'll tell
different.
you a really funny story that shows who I was. We arrived at summer camp, and on the first day, they had no organized activities prepared
Oh,
for us. And it's
oh
like,
no,
hey, kids, what do you want to do? I mean, there was a soccer ball out on the soccer field and a basketball on the basketball court, but that was about it. And hey,
limited
I said,
options.
uh, uh, yeah, I just want to sit and read my book. And the junior
About how
counselor,
old were you at the time? Just an
that
estimate.
probably would have been 10.
Okay.
And the assistant counselor took me aside and said, hey, Sid, I understand you like to read, but you are at a summer camp and we've got all these things you can't do back in the city. You want to give them a try? And I said, sure. And actually, I did.
Yeah.
I became a reasonably healthy and athletic nerd.
Well, it's funny because it's not like you came to the camp with the intention of not doing all those things. It was just that, like you said, they didn't have any planned activities going.
And you give me a choice, I'll go read a book.
That's very true.
That,
I went to I was about 8 years old, and the only like really like story that I tell from then, there was this one time that we were supposed to go on a hike, and me and this one other kid decided, to heck with this, and we went off in a different direction than everyone else, and just sort of wandered around in the woods for a while, and then eventually came back to like the cabin, and thinking, oh well, they'll all get here and wonder how the hell we got ahead of everybody and how we're here, and they never showed up because it turns out instead of going to the cabin after their hike, they went to lunch. So it was like an hour and a half later, and they finally showed up, and they're like, they never realized that two kids were missing. That's how disorganized it was. So they're like, "Where are you two been?" And we're like, "Right here." And they're like, "You missed lunch." I was like, "What was for lunch?" And they said, "Tuna fish." I was like, "Yeah, we're fine with missing that." They had the worst tuna salad I ever tasted in my life. Terrible.
Can we please get to Middle Earth? This planet is making me itchy.
I know. But you know, it's funny you mentioned, going to a bookstore and all that because, uh, the first time that I read The Hobbit was because my parents had, or I should say my mother really had this 4-volume box set that was they were not they were the soft covers, the little, not the trade ones, but the little soft covers. And my mother, is funny, she never read The Hobbit, but she bought this and she still hasn't read The Hobbit. She's 67 years old, still hasn't read The Hobbit. I'm going to get her to read it one day. And I read that.
Read it to her.
I don't think she would let me do that. I don't think she would let me do that.
Start to do it until she grabs the book away from you.
No, actually, I think that because she has like this Amazon Plus thing, and she gets like a free audio book a month, and I've been telling her, you could use that to read The Hobbit, reread The Lord of the Rings. She hasn't read The Lord of the Rings since like high school. She's so much more familiar with the movies now because she's watched the movies a million times that she's forgotten all the characters that are not there. But anyway, like all the they got me my own box set, which I still have. It's not the one that I have up here, but it's stored away because it's a little delicate now. But my own 4-volume box set, and I found Unfinished Tales sitting in their bookshelf. That's how I discovered that. But there was this little bookstore. I hesitate to even call this a bookstore. It was a bookstore that was being run out of a couple's garage in upstate New York. And my in this little town called Northville, which is exactly as small as it sounds like it is. And my grandparents used to have a house there up on the lake, the Sakaganda Lake. And of course, all the locals called it Sagandaga. But they had a house there that was, at first, it was like their summer home, and then they just permanently moved up there, at least until they moved to Pennsylvania. But anyway, me and my sister would spend the summer vacations up there, and we would walk to this bookstore, and that's where I first got. Oh, I put it away. My first copy of The Silmarillion, which was this tiny little ratty, smelly hardcover. That was my first time reading that when I was probably around 13 years old. I don't know exactly what it was.
My start was 1977 when I was 11.
Yeah, I see. I was -3 in 1977.
I was 17, so that's why I've got all the white hair.
I've actually got more white hair than Matt has. It's all in my beard, though. You can't really see it, but there's quite a bit of gray in my beard.
That's probably because you're a gamer that ages you.
Does it? I think it keeps me young. I think it keeps me young.
In your heart.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, every Monday, just go online and beat the snot out of people in Street Fighter 6. It does keep you young in a way. That's what my Monday streams are. We play Street Fighter 6 on Mondays, but this is Thursday, so it's all about Tolkien. So, the order of operations today is I'm going to go first. Matt, you're going to go second. Or rather, I'm sorry, Sid, you're going to go second. And Matt, you're going to go third. Now, let me get my timer on here. Do we want to, you know what, before we do that, because Matt mentioned it, let's talk about the situation a little bit at Quora. I don't need to go into great detail because we talked about it last month, and I've been talking about it on the regular weekly videos that I do and giving you guys updates and everything. But I can tell you right now that I've gotten a few of the AI answers removed for not being factual or for having facts but drawing really, really insane conclusions from them. However, I am talking about the analogy of a few drops being removed from a raging river. When I looked on... When was it that I texted you about this, Matt? It was like 2 days ago?
Yeah.
2 days ago, I looked at the Fever Index bot account, and it had written 38,000 answers, which is more than the three of us put together. And that has only been in the last 6 months. So
didn't it come out to 8 per hour, or 8 per minute
I
for the
believe
last
I believe that's what
24.
you're the one that did the math on that, and
It's
that's
like 8 per hour or 8 per minute every single minute for
something like. Well,
24/7
you
for
you
6
know what,
months.
you did the math and you texted it to me, so I could just look at that real quick,
That's
because that's
stupid.
just like you said 9 articles per hour every single day for 6 months. It's
24/7.
yeah, it's just spewing garbage. So you know, we can't fight this fight alone. So if you are on Quora, let them know that you don't want these AI accounts. You want real people to answer your questions. Because here's the thing: if you want AI to answer your questions, you probably have 6 or 7 different ways to do that without even having to think about it. You know, you could use Google, you could use Meta, you could use whatever. You don't do Quora is where you come to find people with relevant knowledge or experience or education or wisdom. So it's sort
And
of
what's
antithetical.
really disappointing what's really disappointing is that the Quora mission statement from before they launched was a platform for knowledgeable experts to help people with questions for free, to show their expertise for the sake of their business or whatever they do.
Yep.
And so the idea of using AI at all is just utterly contrary to why they
Yeah.
why they were.
And right
Yep.
now we have AI answers to AI questions. So incorrect, factually inconsistent, or just gobbledygook written in answer to questions that nobody asked.
And often gobbledygook questions.
Yeah.
And for anybody who's seen enough AI, it's like looking at a picture. You're like looking at it going, okay, that's not real. And you can sense, since we've all read enough in our lives, what's written by human and what's written by AI. You can just tell. You can tell after about a paragraph, the way that it's put together is so like artificially clunky. I mean, it's not like bad English, but it's like you can just tell that it's not from a person. You can just
It's
tell.
it's it's artificial.
Yeah.
Extremely artificial.
And now it gets worse though, because the way the large language models, which is what these type of AI is, they look at they look at everything on the web, and whatever there is most of becomes
Yeah.
their source for what they say. So now we've got AI going out and reading AI answers to AI questions that no human being ever wanted answered, with bad answers, trying to come up with worse answers.
Yeah, it's just horrific. It reminds me of a quote from Orson Welles, who once talked about certain people in the entertainment industry that he felt were not that they were writing, but they weren't really writing. He says they're not writers, they're typists, just blackening up pages with garbage,
Hmm.
just
Yeah.
Let me
typing away.
let me address something that Sid just said. I totally agree with everything you said, but what really also strikes me as really odd and disgusting, actually, is the idea that AI is pulling from what's most written. So much of it is inaccurate, but it's fan input, it's misnomers out there. It's pulling from so much stuff that it's watered down. And what humans do that have, I mean, what's the total number of years and expertise of us three right here? 130 years of how many?
You're the one that's always coming up with that. I believe that's
It's
what
like
you usually
130
say.
years, just us, and we
Hey,
don't
wait a minute.
look at
That's
what's.
we're the old Took.
Oh, that's hilarious. So yeah, we've outdated the old Took,
Yeah.
and but my point is that when you have people, you're not we're not aggregating from what's the most common thing out there. What we're aggregating or what we're writing is things we've researched to literally be the best, the most accurate, the most supported between passages, letters, a history of Middle Earth, and then making deductions off of pure moonshine. We're making moonshine when humans do it. And we're also giving diversity of opinion because, there's subtle differences between even the three of us that I wouldn't say, is major differences, but different perspectives and different angles that are almost stereoscopic, almost four-dimensional, in the way we're looking at things that provide depth that
But
AI
we have
doesn't get at.
personalities. That's what it comes
Right.
down to. AI doesn't have a
No,
personality.
I want to add something deeper. We care.
That's very
We
true.
care about doing. We care about doing a good job. We care about the content we're writing about, and we care about our readers. And caring, aka love, is the one thing that computers can't do.
And it's really interesting because it's like, obviously from the Tolkien sphere, I have seen people in the Tolkien community who are for AI, and it really boggles my mind because you're draining lakes and rivers to create garbage. Isn't that what Saruman did?
Mhm.
You're
Just
creating you're creating the dead marshes.
you're
Right?
turning nature into misinformation, like Tolkien's personal nightmare.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and what's really interesting is I was assured from all of the people at Quora that their training data did not include people that are on Quora.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, they're not stealing from us, and that would be problematic. We would be pretty angry about having our work stolen, but at least then it would be right.
And here's another thing
But
that, yeah, I agree. And
the
here's
only
another
problem
thing.
is, John, what they told you was not true because they actually called me up to ask if they could point their new AI writers at me as a writing example.
And I'm sure you said
Well,
no
That's
to
what.
that.
That's why the writing sometimes feels good.
there's also one other there's
Wait,
also one other
one
thing.
second, Matt.
Yeah.
I want to jump off something else that you said as well about the subtle differences and how we have our own personalities and such. And in the answer that I had written recently regarding Sauron appearing at the Black Eight, and it was sort of a refutation and a rebuke of the Fever Index answer. Um, I had said something about, like, that Sauron did in fact come to the Black Gate to do battle. It was just too late for him, and he was blown away by the wind. And when I referred to it later, I don't like to repeat myself, so I said he took the Manway Express out of there. And one of the comments I got was, "See, AI would never be able to come up with that to make a joke like that."
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to say something else, and this is going to sound like a little bit of a stretch, but if you go 10 years into the future, 5 years into the future, if this is the model, then the model continues to water things down, water things down, water things down, because what happens is
It
more
does
misnomers.
self-contaminate.
It self-contaminates because it doesn't purify. It's not looking for purification. It's not looking for that at all. It's actually looking for what's the most common, what's the most popular, what's the most trendy, whatever it is. And if you have shows like The Rings of Power or other shows that come out, and that becomes the dominant view, and
Yeah,
then
I mean,
you have
we have two more movies coming out. We have a lot of, you know what I mean, and they're not going to
yeah,
know
so
that
you have
that's not.
regurgitation. Yeah,
Yeah.
so you have regurgitation and pooling of information that's then put into the world from these sources, and give it 10 years, 15 years from now, it'll start having the most recent uh
The recency bias,
bas-
the source contamination.
the
Yeah.
sort of whole, yeah, exactly, to the point where in the end, 20 years from now, you could be looking at, give me a 10-word synopsis of the Lord of the Rings. It'll be like, well, there's these hairy little midgets, and they go on a quest to find themselves, and during the mission they are looked at and evaluated by a giant flaming red eye on top of a big black building. Would you like more help in understanding the Lord of the Rings? I mean,
You know what's funny is I have PDF copies of all the books that I use when I need to find something quickly, right?
yeah.
Because you could search. So whenever I open up the Silmarillion or one of these books, and the Adobe Acrobat says to me, "Would you like to use AI to summarize this because this is a long document?" And I'm like, "You're going to summarize the Silmarillion?" I don't think so.
No.
What are you
And
going to say? Elves
and you know what?
behaving badly?
Exactly. Now, I admit I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I'm not exaggerating in the degree to which this cycle of putrid
Well, I actually brought this up with Quora.
retelling can't get to a point of, okay, that's not what it's about at
Yeah.
all in
I
a
brought
period of
this up
time.
with, and you know, like when you bring up the factual inaccuracies in these answers, there's two things that happen when speaking to Quora. One is they say, "Oh, so you're not against the fact that it's AI, you're against the fact that it's wrong." And I'm like, "No, I'm against the fact that it's AI. I'm very not for AI." And for a lot of reasons, but it's not anything to do with just the fact that it's wrong, because people can be wrong, and people often are wrong. And the other thing that they say is they want, you know, people like me or like you, or even they apparently called up Sid to help them to improve it. They said, well, it could be better. And I said, well, even, you know, it could be gone too. That would be preferable.
Yeah. And actually, Matt, I'm going to put a different angle on what you're saying. For people our age, or even 40 and older, the youngsters among us, what you're saying is right on. But if you look at people who were in junior high school or younger during the pandemic, with their loss of education, at the same time as there was this huge proliferation of entertainment that is designed to be addictive. And then the AI on top of that.
You don't stand a chance, these kids.
We are creating an utterly illiterate culture. And I'm not blaming anybody, but and my wife is a professor in college, and her college freshmen do not know how to think.
Yeah.
At least 75% of the class will use AI when told not to.
Yeah.
All of the information and none of the sense.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's the information is either incomplete or it's hallucinated or it's wrong.
Yeah.
You know. But anyway,
We're going to prove that point tonight, aren't
Can
we,
we?
John?
Can we please get on to something I can like?
I thought you liked dumping on the AI. Okay, let's
right, there we
delayed.
I like wandering.
This is from
in
the
the
chat.
realms of heaven.
Vampires here says delayed gratification versus instant gratification. That's a big part of it. And let me tell you something. Delayed gratification, underrated. Try it out one day. Think of your favorite snack that you really want to have. Don't have it now. Wait till the end of the day. Think about it all day. It's just going to grow bigger and bigger in your mind, and then when you have it, you're gonna love it even more. Think of that seed cake waiting on your windowsill like Bilbo would, right? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and intro my spot here. So I want to talk about an insight that I gained because you could read the Lord of the Rings 1,000 times, and then on the 1,001st time you could find something new. And I don't mean like words that you didn't see before. I'm talking about a new insight that you may have gained. And for me, it was reading the chapter of the Mirror of Galadriel. Now, Galadriel has to make an important choice. She does not choose to take the One Ring from Frodo, even though she was sorely tempted to. And in choosing not to take this power, the power of the Dark Lord, the evil power of Sauron, and to not take that path towards becoming the Lord of the Rings herself, she is putting herself in a position where she loses, no matter what. The entire concept of Lothlorien, her nation, that she didn't create it, but that she adopted it, and that she's cared for it for many years, and she's cultivated into something truly wonderful, a little piece of Valinor in Middle-earth, it's going to go away. And she makes the conscious effort to pass into the West and remain Galadriel. And, of course, putting all of Middle-earth and all of the world above just her country. And that's a very profound choice. But I realized that in the same exact scene, Samwise makes the same exact choice. When he looks into the Mirror of Galadriel, he sees images of the Shire, his home country that he loves, that this is the first time he's been outside of it, being ruined, his father being kicked out of the home, the mills being torn down, the trees being cut down, everything going badly, and he spirals. He flies into a panic, and he is sorely tempted to go back, and he is told that he has that ability to go back, to leave the quest, and to go home to protect his nation against foreign invaders, to protect his nation against domestic problems, and to save the Shire. But he realizes that if Frodo's quest fails, there's not going to be a Shire anyway. And Sam has a very sort of caretaker view towards Frodo. Even though Frodo is an adult, Frodo's perfectly capable of taking care of himself. Sam still takes care of him. And when you're in a caretaker role, you tend to think this person is not going to do anything without me. They're not going to be able to survive. They're like a baby, you know? And Sam has that attitude with Frodo, and he decides that he has to stick with Frodo. So he too, and this goes into the delayed gratification, by the way, that you were talking about, Vampire, but he decides to put all of Middle-earth above his own country, and in doing so, he's able to save the Shire as well. So I'm going to set us up for a half hour here, and let's discuss this, the idea of, and thank you, by the way, Ninetales, you must be a Pokemon fan, thank you so much. Matt and Sid do not have YouTube channels, but you can go to them on Quora. Matt on Quora is called Lore Master, and Sid Kemp, just Sid Kemp on Quora, and we also have loremaster.com. And you'll see them on here a lot. But anyway, let's talk about this. So I thought, wow, here's this scene where both Galadriel and Sam make the same decision at essentially the same time to put all of Middle-earth above their own parochial sort of enclosures. And Tolkien himself, you know, he was born in colonial South Africa. He hated colonialism. And I think that, you know, it's not obviously allegory, but it's a little bit of his own, perhaps unconscious commentary here of if you save the whole world, you save your country too. Can we come up with some other examples of this happening? And it doesn't have to be the Lord of the Rings. It could be the Hobbit. It could be the Silmarillion. It's probably not going to be the Hobbit. But I want to hear you guys' thoughts. And Sid, you had something to say, so why don't you just go ahead first?
Yeah, I want to jump in right on one specific thing you said. Sam's choice is both to save the world, and well, actually, three things: it's to save the world, and it's also to save the world to save the Shire. But it is also, and Tolkien is explicit about this, when Tolkien created the relationship between Sam and himself, it was inspired in large part. There's a job in the British military. Every officer has a Batman, and it means essentially an executive assistant and personal attendant. And these were lower class, not as intelligent as the officers.
The Tommies.
But the best of them were utterly loyal and devoted, and would jump in front of you when the dragon attacked. So Sam's relationship with Frodo and Sam himself is based on Tolkien's own experience of the minor in a classless society, the lower class guardians who saved his life. And if you look at it, Sam was right about Frodo. If Frodo had tried to go through the dead marshes on his own or only with Gollum, who would have pulled him out of the mud when he was just totally drawn in to those candles, the illusory candles underneath the mud?
Well, it was Gollum that pulled him out of that, but I would point out that if Gollum had come across Frodo without Sam, he would have just killed him.
A few times over.
He would have just waited for Frodo to be asleep, killed him, taken the ring.
Yeah.
So, you know.
So the point is that there's both the greater loyalty to the world and the personal loyalty to in the military culture. I've got your back. No man left behind.
I want to hear from Matt as well, but I just want to point this out from the chat. Vampy has said Boromir and Faramir kind of do the same thing. I think they sort of put the world over their idea of a super weapon that could save Gondor. I would say that's true for Faramir. Boromir, unfortunately, did get seduced by the idea of using the ring as a weapon, and that, of course, caused a lot of problems for him and led to his unfortunate demise. But Faramir is an excellent example because he says something along the lines of about the One Ring. If I had seen something like that sitting on the side of the road, I would not even touch it. And then when he finds out, because Sam blurts it out mistakenly, that Frodo has the ring, and Sam says that line, "This is a test for Faramir, Captain of Gondor, to show his quality." And Faramir is, in fact, sorely tempted to take the ring to win the heart of his father, who has always favored his brother, but he does not. He says, I have said what I said, and I'm going to stick by what I said, even if I get in trouble for it. And he gets in a little bit in trouble for it.
And that's what makes him a student of Mithrandir, whereas Denethor became an opponent of Mithrandir, and Boromir and Denethor shared a vision of the nation of Gondor is that which will save the world.
Yeah, and if you listen...
They put their own
I'm
nation...
sorry, I thought you were done. Go ahead.
They put their own nation as the one right defender of the world.
Yeah. And they're close to Mordor. You can see where they come to that conclusion, but they're wrong.
Yeah. But you can also see where it took them. What would have happened if Boromir had grabbed the ring and taken it back, thinking he was going to give it to his dad? But of course, he'd never be able to do that.
He would have kept it for himself.
And he would have tried to destroy Sauron with no ability to do so.
Yeah. And if you read, like, especially in the Council of Elrond, Vampy, if you look at Boromir's dialogue, it's always, in my country. Well, in Gondor. Oh, well, the men of Gondor. He can't go 2 sentences without mentioning Gondor. He doesn't seem to care about anything else. He has a nasty thing to say about every other place. Even places he's never been to. He's like, oh, I heard that place isn't that great. He's always saying something like that. But anyway, Matt,
even Lothlorien.
Yeah, man, if he had said that after, can you imagine Gimli's reaction? Forget about it. They would have gotten into a fight. Matt, we want to hear from you now.
Well, I'm going to go about this in a different way. I have a list that I made based on the conversation that John and I had before the show. We were talking, he wanted to do this issue about globalism, and my first reaction was the positive aspects of globalism or the negative aspects of globalism, and he said positive. Yeah. So I came up with a little list, and I'm going to kind of go through it because it leads me to my conclusion on this.
And that's true, because when you talk about globalism and nationalism, they both have positives and negatives.
Globalism.
They both have positives and they both have negatives. So it's but in this case, we're focusing on obviously the positive aspects of thinking of the whole world.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
because that's what they needed to do. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, there is some nationalist themes in one regard, which is the reestablishment of Arnor and Gondor. I mean, there's a little bit of that, but there's also a lot of unification going on too. So it's a very balanced.
I want to. That's tempered by the fact that anybody within, especially Arnor, who did not want to be ruled by Aragorn, he said, "Fine, go ahead, don't."
Yeah. Yes, that's also true.
He let the Shire govern themselves. He left Bree alone.
Yeah.
He learned from Gandalf and saw that a true leader is a steward.
Yes.
Well, you guys are getting at my conclusion, so
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah,
we get excited.
I know you guys are like minds. You're already there. So this is how I get there, and I think the end will be worth it. I first want to point out that a good example of this is the Council of Elrond. The idea that all the peoples would get together and actually have a discussion about what's going on, so everyone's informed. This idea of moral internationalism is key at the very beginning of this. I mean, it's in the Lord of the Rings, it's in the Silmarillion, but it really shows it very well here at the Council of Elrond. Partly why we named this group the Council of Tolkien is to bring like minds together in a friendly way to exchange ideas and depth and perspectives that give more color, more meaning to the writings of Tolkien. So this is a great example of what we're doing here along with that between the three of us. The second thing I have written down here is a failure of elven isolation. The elves know that this is failing. John mentioned it a little bit ago about what's happening with Lothlorien, and their time is ending, and the isolation isn't going to be the continued answer here for Middle Earth as things give way to the what they call the world of men, and of course we know that means men and women
The
together.
Age of Men. Yeah. You know, do you know
Yes,
what
correct.
do you know what made me realize you know who got it right is Elrond.
Hmm.
Because you think about this, why is he sticking around even? Why is he sticking around? It's
He
because
has.
he has something to finish. He has a
Mm,
calling. And you know who else really gets it?
yeah.
Círdan. Círdan wanted to sail to the west in the first age. And he stayed
Well,
behind because he's like, I'm not leaving without my friend. His friend gets
well,
murdered. He still doesn't leave. He has a calling. He has people
I,
to help.
I agree, and I think one of the calling aspects of that is I've kind of got the baton here, with Galadriel and Círdan and Gandalf, but they're looking for a baton holder, and
They're looking for
uh,
Aragorn
they're looking for Aragorn, and he cannot feel good about leaving unless he leaves the baton with somebody who's got a chance, who's got some authority to do
because
it.
they care about
Um,
Middle Earth.
yeah,
Because
they do, and not just
they could
authority
leave.
in the
They're
yeah,
not making the same mistake the Valar left.
yeah,
The Valar made where they're like, okay, you know what, Middle Earth kind of ruined. Let's
yeah,
leave, and then just like
and
let
it's
Melkor just be in charge of everything. And
yeah, and it's not just heir to the throne legitimacy; it's moral legitimacy. Because even if
it's what
Middle
Sid said,
Earth,
a steward.
yeah, so even if men fail in the end here, at least he can go into the West saying, "I left this with the best moral authority I could have left it with in order for my conscience and my
Yeah,
mission to have come to its natural conclusion and leave." He
I love
needed
that you
all of
said
that to
that.
happen.
I love that you. I just wrote
He,
an article about Círdan. I'm gonna have to send you, Matt. I love. You said there was why didn't he leave? Imagine the War of Wrath. Let's talk about that very briefly. The War of Wrath, so devastating, it destroyed all of Beleriand. All of this
Mhm,
cracked into the sea. It didn't happen instantly. It was about 40 years or so, but it all went down. Not everybody was an elf.
mhm,
Círdan saved all these. Like the only person who died, not from the War of Wrath, but the only person who died because of Beleriand falling into the sea and the world cracking itself apart was Mathros, and he did that on purpose. Círdan saved all those lives, and among them, they were men, they were dwarves, they were mortal. You know what I mean? And he saved them from, and the elves. Who wants to drown? So what if you come back?
And
That's suffering.
yeah,
right,
and
right.
let's remember that Círdan had a Palantir that could reach Valinor.
Well, Erisea, but yes.
I would say, oh no, I believe he could commune with Monway.
Well, they because the stone, they didn't have a Palantir in Valmar. They had one on Erisea though.
But he could look to Monway
Yeah, he could see him. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
and talk to Elbreth, and they could, in the power of their own
Yeah.
minds, they could send him guidance.
I
Yeah.
think that is because Manwë had the ability, along with Varda, to see all things, and Eriseo was definitely within their what you might call their
Well, that's
mental
it's
purview.
it's the Undying Lands, and we got to
Right.
if anybody in the chat or if anybody watching this says, "Oh, you guys are getting off topic," we're not, and I'll tell you why. Because that's another example. Círdan gives his ring of power to Gandalf. So these rings of power, they've been protecting the Elven realms. Elrond has one protecting Imladris or Rivendell. Uh, Galadriel has one that's protecting Lothlorien. Círdan has one that's protecting Lindon, and he gives it away. to somebody who doesn't stay in one place, who is not going to use it to create this sort of magic bubble, who's going to be going from place to place because he knows all the good that Gandalf's going to do with that ring all over
Oh,
Middle
Not
Earth.
only, yeah, and not only
so
that, all over Middle Earth, Gandalf, the Wanderer, that's what his name means, is the steward of all the free peoples of Middle Earth.
so
And
let me
so
keep
that's
going.
global.
Yeah,
Yeah, go
it's
ahead.
global. So let me keep going because that's a link set, the one I just did,
Yep.
number 1 and 2, failure of elven isolation and the handing off of the baton to a moral heir and a physical heir to the throne and all
I
that.
just get
Okay, so
excited whenever we talk about Círdan. He's one of my favorite characters.
oh, he's so great. So then the third one, which is a link set with three and four together, is what happens then, not then, but also is going on in this whole story, is the repair of the cultures and races demonstrated between and by Gimli and Legolas. That the old days are gone. The new people to repair their relationships are here in the world today. That's you and I. And the things that happened from our ancestors must and properly must be set into the past. These people who made those mistakes and had those problems with one another, which really goes back to Thingol and the dwarves with the Noglamir, are
It
things that
it goes
Gimli.
further back. It goes back to
Well,
the slaughter of the petty dwarves as well.
well, sure, and yes, it does. But what I'm looking at the Noglamir is really the final, the really
I
big,
mean, that was
nasty.
that. I mean, and there were good patches like with Celebrimbor, but that was a really bad patch between
It was very
relations
bad.
of the
And
two
so
now.
what I liked about this aspect of is the globalism, which is how do you deal with other people in the here and now that are not in any way responsible or related to anything that has come in the past. And we can only do what we can do with where we are right now. We've all been deposited into this world as spirits, and each one of us here on this show and watching this show are spirits. And none of us had any control about how our spirits were deposited. We are here, and all our duty can be is to look at each other as spirits who've come here and are occupying their bodies and trying to make the best of the situation we can with what we've been given. And so much of that is really, really out of our control, except for our decisions in how we deal with one another here and now. That's all there is. And Gimli and Legolas do this very, very well in this story, and I really love it. Now, the link set with that is the reconciliation with the Southrons and the Easterlings. There is an attempt to a large degree, an attempt to reunite or re-understand, not bring them into the fold by force, but to
But
have
to sue for
relations,
peace.
sue for peace, have relations, have commerce, understand that they're different.
And
They
Aragorn
got a
was
different,
hugely
yeah.
successful, except with Khan. That was the only land he couldn't really make peace with. But
Well, there's always going to be the
well,
grumpy.
Khan was a land that seceded from
Mhm.
Gondor, and it was created by criminals. So of course they weren't gonna
It's the
come
person. It's the
quietly.
person. It's the person who's at Thanksgiving that just doesn't really like Thanksgiving and doesn't get along with anybody anyway. And he's trying to reach out, and he's just realizing, that Khan isn't going to be, one of the great. But let's just at least try not to kill each other. How's that
Yeah.
sound? And then the next link set, which is coming to my conclusion, is the rejection of the Saronic version of totalitarianism, which could have been the bad aspect of globalism, obviously. Um, Totalitarianism in many of its forms, to the right or the left, is always the threat here in Tolkien's works, and the groups that are together agree that this particular version of totalitarianism is by force. It's not natural. It's not an option. It's join or die.
Yeah.
It's very, very, very hardcore, and so that's rejected by the group. And then the link with that is what is some of the greatest stuff, in my opinion, in the movie is the Ents and the Hobbits that break each other's isolation. They break each other's isolation and snap out of their suicidal pacifism for
That's
the
it. Yeah,
betterment
at
of the
least in the
world.
movie, that's true. Yes.
Right.
Um,
They decide. It's interesting. They're there together, and they almost help each other figure out. Wait a second. Are we part of this world or not?
yeah,
Are we just, you know? Are we? This is a
that
cause and
was,
effect analysis
and I know we're going to
here.
talk about this more in your section, but for the movie, that was like one of Mary's finest moments there. Um, let's talk about the
Pippins
first
too.
age. Well, yeah, but it was Mary that came up with the idea. Let's
Yeah.
talk about the first age a little bit, because you talked about elvish isolationism, and what's crazy is that in the third age they should already know that it doesn't work, because the two great times that the elves decided to be hyper nationalistic and close off everything was Gondolin and Doriath. And oh, what do I have here? I have an entire book called The Fall of Gondolin. Oh, what's that in the Silmarillion? There's a whole chapter called Of the Ruin of Doriath. It never works out in the long run.
Neither
These
does
sort
the
of
siege.
grand
Neither does the siege
civilizations.
of Ang. Neither does the siege of Angband
Yeah, it
in their
eventually.
version of isolating that way too.
Yeah, so the elves already know, at least Galadriel knows, and Elrond knows, and Círdan knows that this sort of thing doesn't work. Um, Even the Wood Elves were not really isolationists. Now, yes, Thranduil had to have a very strong border. That's
Yeah.
important. He had
Yeah.
to, because his neighbor is Sauron. He doesn't know it's Sauron, but it's Sauron. He
Yeah.
has to have a very strong border, and he has to question, why is Thorin there? Why are you here? Why are you in my land? I'm not saying you can't be here, but you need to tell me why. And that's why Thorin winds up in jail, because he refuses to tell the king what the king wants to know, and Thorin was
Yeah.
100% in the wrong. Um, but they're friends with the Men of Dale. They have trade. They're not isolationist. You know what I mean? They're
Mhm.
good people. They could have walked right by the ruin of Esgaroth, and of course they didn't do that.
When the Ents and the Hobbits break each other's
I thought we weren't going
isolation.
to go to the Hobbit, and then I go to the Hobbit.
Well, the yeah, well, we might get there, but I want to point out how cool that section is because we have the scouring the Shire at the end, and then we have the mobilization of the Ents and the Huorns that overthrow Isengard and
and
Orthanc itself,
and they even
and
show up
it's
at
just
Helm's Deep and help out there too.
yep,
Yeah.
and that army of Huorns that show
But
up is so cool. Now I have
Wait,
one
hold
more
on.
last
Sid
point.
has a question.
Okay.
we also have the union of Mary and Eowyn as individuals,
Hmm.
which is the magic needed to fulfill the prophecy for the death of the Lord of the Nazgul.
Hmm.
That's
And
another
Love it.
cutting across
I'm gonna tie
boundaries.
it in here to what I said, Sid, because what you mentioned the prophecy. Who made that prophecy? That was Glorfindel, a
Yes.
survivor from Gondolin.
Yeah, love it.
That's
That's good.
big.
Okay, now
That's
where I'm
big.
going to end is
Oh,
the
and
last point.
Moria was another example of isolationism not working.
Yeah.
So in the end, we have this breaking of isolation, the unification against the idea of totalitarianism, and then the last point is that we have the restoration of unity without uniformity.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I
Everybody keeps
love
their identities
e-
while working together.
everybody, everybody. Yes, in the end, it's just fight evil, not each other. And just fight what is going to be destroying all of us because it wants to consume everything, but don't fight each other. There's a clear enemy, and that's the enemy that needs to be defeated. And the rest of our differences, the rest of our um, uniqueness, our uninformity, um, can be our strength if we are united without forcing each other to be the same.
And there's one letter that spells this out. The free peoples with an S
Yes.
of Middle
Yeah,
Earth.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We were never called to become one people. We are called to be a mutuality of differences.
I want to address a few things from the chat. Joe Quake says, seems to me the isolated enclaves of the elves allowed them to last longer than they would have without them. Maybe Gondolin was Ulmo's idea, remember. It was, but also remember that he sent Tur there to tell them what was going to become of Gondolin, and unfortunately King Torgon did not take that warning to heart. Also, Vampy said, did the Valar have any involvement in the Third Age, directly or indirectly? Of course. Who do you think sent Boromir to Rivendell?
Actually, I think it was Gandalf, Olorin, the sender of dreams.
Yeah,
But
but
who
it
sent
was it was
Gandalf?
a voice out of the West, and also the fact that Gandalf's there at all is the Valar's work, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a voice out of the West, and if you know about the Asan Wakenta and you read all like the nature of Middle Earth, that was the way that the Valar communicate telepathically with mortals is through dreams. To Faramir and to Boromir. But yeah, no, they absolutely are involved. They're less involved, but they're more involved. Think of Frodo invoking the name of Elbereth to the Witch King, and the effect that had. That was a big thing too.
You know what's interesting about that, John, is there's the concept of dreaming and being in passive receiving mode as a receptor.
Yeah.
When you're dreaming, you're not talking, you're not thinking, you're not hoping, you're not desiring, you're not eating, you're not thinking about power, you're not doing anything. You're just in what you might call open receiving listening mode. And the more people who can be in that mode, even when they're awake, are just simply better listeners because
Yes.
they're actually listening.
100%.
Now, when Tolkien talks about the way to communicate, the way to get through people, when they're not thinking about their own selfish problems and they're just asleep in this receiver mode, is when they speak and they're able to get the message through without the clutter of everyday world, the globalistic problems. When they're in receiver mode, they're actually able to listen to what the Valar are saying. And they don't have to say very much. All they got to do is say a certain concept or a word, and it speaks volumes when the person wakes up and goes, okay, now I'm getting it. I'm getting
And,
the real
and of
meaning.
all the places in Middle Earth, the one that is least cluttered with unnecessary noise is the home of Tom Bombadil and Goldberry.
And that's
And
where
that is where
Frodo
they could,
sees a dream of Valinor.
They're all
yeah.
dreaming except for one.
Sam doesn't dream,
Sam,
but Sam doesn't need to dream. He's got his common
exactly.
sense. I wanted to jump
Exactly.
on. We only have like 4 minutes here, but I wanted to jump on what Matt said because you brought up Gimli, and this is just, this is my wheelhouse here with Gimli, because Gimli is sort of the paragon of what a dwarf should be. He's sort of the perfect dwarf. And he represents his people beautifully. He carries himself with such dignity and class because of the fact that he's the only dwarf present in the entire southern region of Middle Earth during the time of the Two Towers and the Fellowship of the Ring. He even says that he wants to be in certain places because he has to represent the dwarves, or he has to be in a certain place because the dwarves need to have this story taken back to them. And what's really interesting is it's that Gimli is also so unusual because he's all about sharing his culture, and that's really important because, and this is going back to what I talked about actually last month, and then it was a point that I was trying to get to without even realizing that I was trying to get to, is the sharing of cultures is really important. Merry and Theoden sitting there and talking about the wonderful differences between them and how it makes them unique. Gimli and Legolas starting as rivals but winding up as the best of friends. Gimli and Frodo sharing their cultures with them, including Gimli letting Frodo see Durin's crown. Things that a lot of the dwarves would consider sacred and would say that they don't share with outsiders. And Gimli's like, no, we should, though. We should be doing that.
What happens in warfare psychologically with soldiers is, and people who are from different backgrounds, and I'm in the military. I've been in the military for a lot of years, and what happens is when morale is highest, the enemy is the most clearest. It's the most clear because you forget all of your differences, your survival and your clarity about what the foe is or the mission is becomes the only unifying factor between people who are absolutely not the same at all. And those friendships last. Those people will die for each other for the rest of their lives
100%. Yeah.
because they've seen what really actually matters and what the actual thing that needs to be opposed looks like. and they forget their differences because they realize the differences they're not meaningful. They're not meaningful.
To answer Mughal's
I
question,
would
I'm
like,
sorry, I just want to answer the question from the chat, and then I'll kick it over to you. To answer Mughal's question about Sauron, what he would be considered politically, you have to remember that Sauron's not human. He is one of the Ainur. He is an angel, so he doesn't have what we would necessarily refer to as a political alignment. However, if he was on that chart, it would be top center. Go ahead, Sid.
I would like to wrap up this section as a perfect lead into what I'm going to talk about. I want to take everything we've said and add a new dimension, and that dimension is time. The War of the Ring is at the end of the Third Age. Everything is condensed into a massive battle between good and evil, where evil shows good how strong it is. And that was what Matt was discussing.
And I love,
But there's
Sid,
another,
when you talk about the
yeah,
terror that good brings to evil as well.
yes.
Well,
And by the way, in terms of, I really don't want to be interrupted. I've stayed quiet
Sorry.
for 20 minutes.
Sorry.
Thank you. So, by the way, there's another set of isolations. Smaug was isolated and died. The Balrog was isolated and died. Gandalf was constantly thinking Sauron was going to get his shit together and get a dragon and a Balrog on his side.
Language.
Oops, crap together. Sorry. And Sauron never even tried to get a dragon and a Balrog on his side. So evil too is isolated in the worst way. In fact, Tolkien describes both Morgoth and Sauron as ultimately self-isolating until they became nothing but emptiness.
Yeah.
Now we carry this forward in time. There is a second role that every member of the Nine had. And it has to do with what Tolkien calls the Age of Men, which I think is a misnomer. It is the age of the rise of men, of humanity, and the disappearance or hiding of all non-human sentience. In this world today, we see no elves, we see no hobbits. They hide well, though.
Hey, Sid, you're not like starting your section now, are you?
I'm wrapping up my reply, and
okay. I just wanted to make sure because I am going to require a bio break between sections, so I just want to let you know.
Okay, I'll give you the bio break in under 2 minutes. Each member of the Nine had a more important job than destroying the ring. It was to be the representative of the future of their own race in the Fourth Age. Legolas and Gimli, Legolas as an elf further to the east than any other who had gone to Valinor. Gimli as a dwarf sailing to Aman. They are harbingers of the fact that the elves and dwarves are at peace and leaving Middle-earth, leaving what will be the world of men. Sam and Merry and Pippin become established as free beings separate from humanity who hide really well. And if they're still here, they're very well hidden. Frodo is a representative of those who deeply, and Bilbo, take on Elvish culture and belong with the elves. So each member, and Boromir dies heroically, and so forth and so on. Each of them leads their people over thousands of years to follow them until the elves and dwarves have left Middle-earth, and we are left with what? We don't know the story of the Fourth Age, but it almost certainly leaves the Fifth Age being not the ascent of men, but men alone in the world, our own history. Whether you go back to ancient Mesopotamia, whatever, something like that is what Tolkien had in mind. And so this is about how we lead into the future. And that is a perfect introduction to what I'm going to say, except John needs a bio break.
Well, I need to wrap up the section as well. So
I got
yeah.
one last thing to say.
Well, let me go here because I really gotta go to.
Well, it's going to be in
'Cause
support of what you said about totalitarianism and the center top. So
okay, well, I'll let you get to that, but let me address the chat because I've been waiting to do this for like 10
sure.
minutes. So,
Okay.
to the discussion in chat, because there was a bit of a spirited discussion on the YouTube side about the Valar and about their intervention, and also some good points related to stuff that we were talking about. So, I want to address all of that.
Okay.
Another way that the Valar intervened in Middle Earth, and this happened 2 times, was to Sauron and to Saruman. When the ring was destroyed, Sauron was still in the process of attacking the forces of the Free Peoples at the Black Gate. He didn't quite get there. He was blown away by a wind. And this was anteceded, or I should say, it was preceded by the arrival of the eagles, the birds of heaven, the eagles of Manwë. That was Manwë going and blowing him away. And we see the same thing happen to Saruman when he is slain by Grim of the Wormtongue. His spirit rises from his dead body and looks to the west, and then is rebuked by a cold wind. So Manwë is watching, and he does have things to say and things to do here. Also to Kits, I'm so sorry. I wish you had said this earlier. Kits brings up a really good point that I wish we had thought of. The kin strife of Gondor. We're going to have to talk about this one day, where they didn't want to accept the Prince of Gondor eventually becoming the King of Gondor because he married a lady from Rovanian, and they thought anybody with a foreign wife is not going to be a good leader. And obviously this created a terrible civil war that plunged Gondor into chaos for a lot of years.
Mm-hmm. Good
And,
point.
and don't, there was one more wind. Remember the wind that blew Aragorn's ships?
Oh, that's
up the end of
yes,
that.
yes, a divine
and
breeze.
It was a sea wind.
That was probably Olmo, yeah.
No, or Olmo and Manwë working together, most likely.
And they loved to work together too. They were the best.
There's one other wind. There's one other wind. It took 39 days to go from Numenor to go about 800 miles to Valinor, and there was no wind. There was very little wind, so they were not being helped to get there.
Yeah, they weren't being welcomed at all. And
still.
Elendil's ships made it safely to Middle-earth.
Yeah, I think I did the calculation once for an article. I think it was like 1.8 or 1.2 knots average speed. I mean, that's basically no wind. That's like no help.
Before we step away for bio breaks, you had something to say about Mughul's question about Sauron being the totalitarian, sort of at the top of the
I want to say that people don't know, but I'm a retired professor of philosophy, and what John said, I want to add to that. I think that sometimes you have to support somebody who says something very accurate about a very important thing about politics in this way. And John is correct that the totalitarian wings do meet on the right and the left at simple, straight out fascist totalitarianism. They can both get there, and they can both have their abuses. And Sauron is the epicenter of absolute totalitarian rule. And I think John, I want to just add that John is correct on that.
Vampy, I'm about to step away, but tell me what you have read. Go ahead, Sid.
An image, a ring, facing you. At the top, Eru uniting all. In the human and living realm, you've got a right and a left, and they go round, and they meet again at the bottom under totalitarian evil. That is the ring of Arda.
When I was talking about at the top, I was just referring to like the typical political compass that goes in 4 directions. And I was saying, Sauron, is he right? Is he left? He's up. That's where he is.
Yeah.
Where the wings touch. Yeah.
Well, it's not so much the wings touch; it's a separate axis. But I don't want to get into all that, especially since we're.
I would say he's all the way down. But...
Okay, Vampy, if you've read The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, your next step. Do you want to read a good story, or do you want an info dump? If you want an info dump, read The Silmarillion. If you want a good story, read The Children of Hurin. I'm going to go over to this screen right here because I need to step away. And if you guys need to step away, you can too. And then we'll get into Sid's section.
Yeah. And if you want to find out everything that's behind Lord of the Rings, read Unfinished Tales. I too am taking a bio break.
Uh-oh. And what am I going to talk about? Well, I'll just say to cover the dead space, the person who was asking about info dump or Silmarillion or the Children of Hurin, um, I would just say that the Silmarillion is more beautiful than it is complicated. But you have to go at it knowing that um, every chapter is a full meal deal, and there's a lot of meaning behind everything that's being said, but it's all very deliberately written that way. Uh, and so you have to kind of accept that before you go into it. A second thing is, if you don't want to get into the history of it right away, I would suggest that you read The Fall of Gondolin or Turambar as a really great story within the Silmarillion to kind of get a taste of what's going on before you start at the beginning. So, encouraging you to dabble in the Silmarillion if you can. The Children of Hurin is long,
It's not long.
detailed. Well, it's not short.
Children of Hurin?
Yeah.
I have it right
How many
here.
pages is it? What is
So,
it, 180?
hold on. I mean, it's an index and everything. It's about 300 pages.
Okay, that's
About the same length as The Hobbit.
yeah. Yeah. Okay.
It's also
So
like
it's.
the coolest story ever. I mean,
I'm not saying it's not. I'm
Yeah.
just saying if for just that one subject, 300 pages is a deep
Yeah.
dive, but it's very, very good. Anyway, those are the two differences between the two. The Silmarillion is, I think, about 330 pages,
Silmarillion's about.
depending on the version of the book you have.
Yeah, I think you're correct. It's about 400 pages, but there's, like I said, there's appendixes and indexes and such.
Yeah,
So if we
the
just
reading part of it's about
go
330 or
to the
340.
end of the Rings of Power, which is the last chapter, that's actually 292 pages.
Yeah,
So, but the Silmarillion, it might be short, but it's rapid fire events and character names and things just thrown at you. It's like boom, 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 constant information.
yeah.
Now, the Children of Hurin is a story in the Silmarillion, but it only tells a little bit of the story, and some of it is very brief because it's trying to get to other things. But there's a novelized form that you could read. But if you want the lore dump and you love the lore dump, which is which is the feedback that we're getting, yes, read the Silmarillion. And if you read that chapter, which is called of Turin Turambar, and you're like, wow, this guy's story is, oh my god, and you want to read the full version, get the book, The Children of Hurin. But the Silmarillion, if you want the audiobook, you're talking about audiobooks. Andy Serkis has a version out that you can get, so there's that. All right, so I'm back, but Sid stepped away, so we'll wait for Sid before we continue.
My personal favorite chapter is The Flight of the Noldor, which is chapter 9. But if you wanted to read something that was the most recent by Tolkien,
Of Ali and
it's the
Yavanna?
chapter Aule and Yavanna, and it's not the last, obviously, in order, but he was the one that he perfected.
It's
and
like
wrote
chapter 3.
The last, yeah, it's chapter 3. It's very eloquent. It's very beautiful, and it's something really, really a treat because it is his last chapter written in his lifetime.
Oh yeah,
For
Vampy, you could do
Silmarillion.
that. You could do that definitely, because he said when I get to the of Turin and Turambar, I'll jump into the Children of Hurin. Just keep in mind though that you still want to read that chapter in the Silmarillion because there's a bit of information about what happens after the book.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Andy Serkis is the only actor to get a South African accent
Y'all
correct.
can't see
Probably
me, but
'cause-
I'm here.
Yeah, Sid's back. Probably because the New Zealand accent is similar enough that he's able to pull it off correctly. All right, let's come back over to
There's also a little bit of a ventriloquist.
here.
I mean, not a ventriloquist,
Ventriloquist?
but I meant a mimic.
Oh yeah, well obviously, yeah, he's
That's what I meant.
great at that. Dope indeed. Okay, Sid's back, and we are on the proper screen. So I'm gonna set you up for 2 minutes here, and I wrote 5 minutes. Let's fix that. And go ahead.
Okay.
Well, actually, wait. Before you do that, since you were away for this discussion, I want to
Sure.
give you the opportunity to also chime in. because Vampy was asking, he's read The Hobbit, he's read The Lord of the Rings, what does he read next? And I was saying either The Children of Hurin or The Silmarillion, depending on what you're looking for. And we think he's more looking for The Silmarillion, but if you have any different advice, I'll give you the opportunity to throw those out.
A suggestion, especially if you want to know what's the whole story behind The Lord of the Rings, the way into the Silmarillion is through Unfinished Tales.
Yeah.
Which is everything Tolkien wanted to put in the book, but there wasn't room. And it explains what Gandalf was thinking when he picked Bilbo. It explains how the Palantir really worked. He's got an engineering instruction manual for the Palantir. Yeah. It's utterly hilarious. And there's all kinds of good stuff there. And it's a good intro. It's a good passage out into the past.
Also, you could sort of jury rig The Children of Hurin by reading it in Unfinished Tales. And then there's a point where it says, okay, now read this part of the Silmarillion and then come back.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, Ninetales, there is a book called Beren and Luthien. It is not really just merely the entire story of Beren and Luthien, which is actually found in the Silmarillion during the chapter of Beren and Luthien. But actually, this is every version of the story, including the poems and everything, all compiled together. It is a beautiful, beautiful volume to get, though.
It's one of Christopher's last works, is it not?
I think
he got better
yeah.
with age.
Yeah, it was, because the Fall of Gondolin, who edited that? No, he edited the Fall of Gondolin as well.
Yeah, but he was working on those two at the very end after he'd become very skilled at doing.
Yeah, but there was a few years between the releases at least.
Yeah,
and then of course Brian Sibley took over and Hostetter was working on it too. Okay, go ahead, Sid. I'm gonna start the counter. So go ahead.
So it is called Deep Dive: How Gandalf and Tolkien Saw the Best Way for Us to Live Our Lives. We begin with one word from Tolkien's On Fairy Stories: subcreation. Subcreation is the highest act a being with a soul like you or me can perform. It means to do all we do in honor of and in harmony with our Creator's intentions. How do we know what God intends for the world, and how do we know our part in it? For this we turn to the opening of the Silmarillion, the Ainulindale, the symphonic masterpiece, vocal and instrumental, composed by Eru.
Hi, Rico.
In each age, it becomes the music of a stage performance lived over thousands of years, an age of Middle-earth, including our own. Eru meant it to be utterly uplifting and beautiful, angelic music, guiding the human heart in a loving, courageous life where we grow in wisdom. But Morgoth's fall into darkness and hatred early in the first performance of the song changed all that, and it became a battle of darkness raging against the light. And in that battle, we live our destiny, if we have one, or our purposes, we all have those, and choose our own salvation or our own fall. If this sounds very Christian, it is, as Tolkien was. But we can set that aside and enter the legendarium for inspiration without religion. The key is in the Ainulindale is that Eru, the one creator, created the concert hall and the musicians. He wrote the score of the symphony. He gave life to each angelic musician, taught them to sing and play, taught them to improvise, and then conducted the orchestra. But the angelic improvisational artists added more beauty to his themes with what rose from their own hearts. To subcreate is to be a player in the symphony or an actor in our lives, in our time, creating the leading in harmony with Eru's music. During the music, Yavanna and Manwë did this. Yavanna yearned for the ants, trees that could speak and protect the forests. Manwë foresaw the great eagles, spirits of the air, who could travel and see the world in detail, to carry messages and to serve. Eru blessed their visions, and they subcreated with the Creator to bring these things into the world. Aule's case was different. He conceived of the dwarfs alone after the song and hid his work from Eru, ashamed. But Eru caught him out, and he repented. So Eru gave the souls to the dwarves, insisting only that they awaken when elves and men awakened, and not before. Morgoth has utterly broken with the loving intent of the song and the world created through it. Thus he cannot create life, he can only distort and destroy. But as we were discussing 5 minutes ago, all that destructive power of Morgoth or Sauron shows the light, the free peoples, how strong we are. So today, how do we subcreate? 10 more seconds. Tolkien saw it 2 ways. In the arts, we can create whole worlds that inspire all to a deeper, more beautiful life, as Tolkien did. In the world, we can do our part to live in love and wisdom expressed as pity and mercy and patience. Our lives are a model of the Creator's love. We lead by example, listen to the divine in our hearts, and subcreate this world as leaders to make it the place of beauty and wonder our Creator means it to be. Let's get to work.
I should have just left the timer at 5 minutes because that's how long that was, by the way.
It was, sorry.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you say to me, like, okay, I've got it at 2.5 minutes. Could you give me 2.5 minutes? And I'll be like, yeah, sure, fine. And then it takes like 3 minutes and 45 seconds. I think when you're live, you read slower than when you
I
test
think
it.
so.
Yeah, which is fine. I
well,
was like, I'm not going to interrupt him.
Yeah.
Just let him finish.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'm very happy to be very quiet in this one and just hear what, especially the audience
Yeah.
on the live stream, and also the two of you want to say.
Yes,
take
of course.
with this.
Before we even start, I just want to answer Ninetales again. He says, sorry for pestering you all, but it's okay. That's what you're here. That's what we're here for. We're here to answer your questions. Google seemed unclear. Is Glorfindel versus the Balrog in Unfinished Tales, or in the Silmarillion, or in the Fall of Gondolin book? The answer is it's in Unfinished. It's not in Unfinished Tales. I don't know where Google's getting that from. It is in the Silmarillion. It is in the Fall of Gondolin because that compiles every version of that story. It's also in a few other books because he wrote a bunch of different versions of it. But if you want to read the Fall of Gondolin, the Silmarillion is the place to get it. There is a book called The Fall of Gondolin. It has every version, including my favorite version that is completely unfinished. That's probably where Google got its information from because there is a version in Unfinished Tales, but it stops well before Glorfindel.
Well, but actually, there is one bit about Glorfindel and Unfinished Tales answering the question of, was Glorfindel in the Third Age Glorfindel who died in the First Age?
Yeah, that is in
and that is explained in Unfinished Tales.
But the fight with the Balrog, I mean, it's in a few different places. It's in the Book of Lost Tales Part 2, for example. I believe it's also in, I want to say, the War of the Jewels, but yeah, there's a bunch of different versions of it. But you want the Silmarillion. Okay, let's start the timer. Boop. All right, Sid, get us started here. Or you've already got us. Okay, you've already gotten us started. Matt.
So,
let's go to Matt.
How do you live your life as a sub-creator with God? Matt, what do you say?
Well, as some people know, I am Catholic, and so I love the fact that Tolkien does not make this overly Christian. There's a real difference in how he approaches it, especially from his friend C.S. Lewis. But what Tolkien is really getting at is the moral compass and the identification of the enemy when you see it. And so he really focuses on that. And then the rest of the stories are all kind of about the people in the stories who are dealing with basically 5 main things. And I wrote them down because I think these are kind of the main 5. And then I did a little research here while he was talking about where these came from, and they all came from Gandalf, because it doesn't seem, but it is a fact that Gandalf serves as Tolkien's moral compass throughout the works. And the number 1 I have here is own your time and what you can control. I guess
Gandalf
I'll
always
read the
knows
quote.
exactly how much time he can allot to every task.
Yeah, and here's the quote. So do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us. That's from the Fellowship of the Ring. Number two, I have is temper judgment with pity and mercy. Many that live deserve death, and some that die deserve life. Can you give it to them? Then do not be too eager to deal out death and judgment, for even the very wise cannot see all ends. Number three, never underestimate the cumulative power of good deeds. And that registered with Gandalf's statement Sauron believes that it is only great power that can hold evil in check, but that is not what I have found. I have found it is the small, everyday deeds of ordinary folk that keep the darkness at bay, simple acts of kindness and love. Love being the universal principle, obviously, for all of Tolkien's works, especially for the creator god in this work, which is Eru Iluvatar.
Not
Number
just that,
four.
just I'm sorry, just to build on that, but this all started because of his wife.
Hmm. Yeah.
I mean, he was in the military. His wife came to visit him. He was sick. She danced in the flowers, and he came up with Beren and Luthien.
She was a great inspiration to him, especially in the ways of joy, love, chilled earth, these kinds of things that really were about love in their ultimate essence. Number four, I have step up to moral duty. And this was, it is not our part to master all the tides of the world, but to do what is in us for the succor of those years wherein we are set, uprooting the evil in the fields that we know, weeding the field, if you want to call it that, so that those who live after may have clean earth to till. That's Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. And finally, number five, retain hope even in the face of despair. And the quote I found in the Fellowship of the Ring for that was Gandalf as well. Despair is only for those who see the end beyond all doubt. We do not. So these are all about moral clarity and what to do in the face of evil. But you don't know when evil is looking at you until you actually open your eyes and are aware of your surroundings and what you must do with the time you've got. So these are moral compass things. They're all from Gandalf, but obviously from the author Tolkien. And those are the best
Yeah,
five I can think of.
Matt,
I would like to
can I
jump in
just
really
say,
quickly.
wait, before you do, because this is just a brief interest. I just have to just say, the wisdom of Matt Richardson is greatly underrated. I feel at times. I just want to point out, Matt had no idea what Sid's topic was going to be. Sid wouldn't tell me earlier. I told him, you can tell me or you can not tell me. He smiled and said, I'll keep it to myself. That's fine. It's perfectly good option to surprise us. In the 5 minutes that Sid was making his intro, Matt came up with all of that and found the passages. I just want to just say, wow, that was so cool.
Well, in thank you, John. You're very
Yeah.
kind. I would just say that you know when you do what I do for a living, these things came up really quick. And obviously, when you ask questions of John or Sid, spiritual issues, deep think issues, or language issues, that we all have our expertise. This is in my wheelhouse because it's philosophy. So you come up with these. What I did look up though is where are these in
Yeah.
the Lord of the Rings? They're all from Gandalf. But the bottom line is, thank you, John.
Could
But
you
Gandalf serves as
reiterate the
Tolkien's
second
moral
point?
compass. Sure, but Gandalf serves as Tolkien's moral compass. It's a way he gets to speak through to us in these what you might call Christian values, but they're good deed values. They're awareness values. That's what the key thing about Tolkien. And what was number two? You said
Could you just reiterate the second point?
number
Because you
two
did.
was temper your judgment with pity and mercy.
Okay, yeah, because
You
I'm going to
always
say something about that, but first Sid is going to go.
It's very interesting. Not only these came from Gandalf, but who they were said to. 1 and 2 were said to Frodo in the opening Shadows of the Path. 3 and 5 were Gandalf speaking to the entirety of the representatives of the free people at the Council of Elrond. And I think 4 was also to Frodo, though I'm not sure.
I believe you're
And so
correct.
this is Gandalf passing on his wisdom to either the one person who needed it most. Frodo had to become transparent to Eru to be able to bear the ring, and Gandalf guided him both to go on the quest and to become a being who could succeed. And the more he was wounded, the assault in the Barrow Downs, the assault with the Morgul knife, the journey through the Dead Marshes, on and on, only made Frodo more pure. To endure the darkness is to grow in the light.
A clear
And
vessel filled with light was the exact phrase
yes,
that Gandalf used.
yes.
Good,
Um,
good,
And
good.
that, by the way, is a Christian phrase.
Absolutely.
Uh,
There is a connection that I want to draw because your second example there was speaking about Gollum. And this is it. I wrote about this recently. There is a very strong connection between Gollum and Grima, because even though Gandalf never says it about Grima, it is true that he had a big part to play before the end, and that it is only through the fact that multiple people showed him mercy that he played that part in the end. And that, I think, is very important. The wise don't see all ends. Gandalf's there to, as Sid pointed out, to be a steward. He's not there to mete out judgment. He's not there to lead anybody. He's there to inspire people and teach people on how to lead themselves into the Fourth Age and beyond.
In one of his letters, Tolkien is utterly explicit about this. He says, yes, Gandalf the White could definitely have defeated the Witch King at the gate of Minas Tirith, but instead Gandalf did something better than fighting for the Free Peoples. He united the Free Peoples in the form of Eowyn and Eowyn and Mary's bond, so that the Free Peoples freed themselves from the horror of the Witch King.
Not to mention the bond of Pippin and Faramir.
Yes.
Which is usually important in that particular scene.
Can I say something about pity and mercy?
Of course, that's what we're here for.
Yep.
So, I've taught most of my life, and I've had hundreds, probably thousands of students. And this word pity is interesting to me because pity in the way it's meant right now, in fact, pity in the way it's meant, properly meant, isn't from a position of power or being better than someone else. It's an exercise in empathy to understand that we all have been put into these bodies, into this situation, and circumstances have happened to us, around us, in ways that we really can't control. And he's talking here about Gollum and the unfortunate situations that have happened to him. And what's important here is he's doing it in a way of reminding Frodo that Gollum isn't less than pity. It's pity in understanding the nature of what happened to this being. And the lesson here is to understand that each one of us, the three of us and everyone watching, everyone in the world, are in our bodies with histories, parents, heartbreak, injuries, addictions, failings, anything you can think of. And when we deal with one another, we need to be thinking of the things that you don't know has happened to people that maybe you don't want to know, but you know that have happened to them. And when I deal with students, I try to remember this because they've got things that you don't know they're dealing with. Everyone is dealing with something with something. I mean, how many millionaires and billionaires just jump off a bridge, right? Money is not the solace to the world. It's not the solace to anybody in the end. And this idea of pity is really born in empathy, and mercy isn't so much that you're giving absolution to people, but you're giving them grace to exist where they are, and you're not forcing them to change in any particular pace or under any particular regime that you have for them. You're giving everybody space, and you're giving everybody the um, the recognition that we are here together, and we can't control so much of our condition. And so I wanted to point that out, that people, especially people who are um, looking at these terms, these are very, very deep terms, that pity and mercy don't exactly mean what we think they mean on first blush. And we should think about them more deeply.
I would like to pick up on this very directly. Why is mercy in particular so important? There are two reasons, and if you read deeply into Tolkien, you find these. What, not only does mercy say, I won't tell you how to live, it also says, I will let you live. And what is the meaning of that? It has two meanings. As Gandalf says of Gollum, and John pointed out correctly, also true of
Grima. Yeah.
Grima, they have a part to play in the end. And I said at the beginning of my 5 minutes that some of us have a destiny. And obviously, to cut off someone's destiny before the end is going to cause a lot of trouble. But we all have a journey in this world, and I'll say more about this world in a minute, to our own salvation. And if we are cut off early, as Sam rudely cut off Gollum's one effort to repent, which Tolkien called the saddest moment in the entire book. We want to allow people to live to fulfill the salvation of their own soul. And I want to pick up here, there is one aspect of all of this which we haven't discussed, which Tolkien and Lewis agreed about. And Lewis talked about it more explicitly, the sublunar sphere. Satan rules everything inside the orbit of the moon. We live inside Angband. We live inside
Morgoth's ring.
Mordor. Yeah. And
Good
and
job.
and both of them believed that and said basically all human beings are born in something much closer to hell than we think. And Matt is very right in saying, look where the enemy is.
There's a reason
And
we
then you'll
come into the
find
world screaming.
exactly. We may find the enemy is everywhere and at the top already. And in this, it is true that Lewis is more explicitly Christian, but Lewis and Tolkien shared a vision, and both achieved it, of presenting the Christian ethos to lapsed Christians and non-Christian. Lewis did it explicitly as a Christian, but actually my wife knows one person who read the entire Narnia series and didn't realize that Aslan was Jesus.
I've run into a lot of people who didn't pick up
Yeah.
on that fact. And you know what? Good for them. That's
Yeah.
fine.
And good for Lewis.
Yeah.
In that way, he was doing what Tolkien did. He got enough out of Christianity that the spiritual plague of England in particular was lapsed. Legally, if you didn't declare another religion, you were baptized and by law listed as a member of the Church of England, a Christian church.
Yeah.
So a lot of people ended up being Christians in name only with nothing. And that was Lewis's main audience, including right through World War II. And even so, he had the courage to imagine during World War II, he had the courage to imagine that England might turn literally Nazi shortly after the end of the war, and that if it happened, it would happen in the universities.
I want to go back to what Matt was talking about pity. And I want to point out that if you are reading through The Lord of the Rings and you want to absorb, I don't want to really use the phrase the moral truths, but the moral imperatives that Tolkien is teaching us, keep an eye out for syntax. And when I say that, I mean there are points where he capitalizes letters. Matt was talking about the common usage of the word pity versus the way that Tolkien uses it. And if we look at this very brief passage here. But this is terrible, cried Frodo, far worse than the worst that I imagined from your hints and warnings, O Gandalf, best of friends. What am I to do? For now I am really afraid. What am I to do? What a pity that Bilbo did not stab that vile creature when he had the chance. Now, he is, in this point, actively wishing that his cousin, his father figure in life, had murdered someone in cold blood just so that he doesn't have to deal with it, which is a very selfish way of looking at it, and that's why Gandalf rebukes him. But when he says pity, it's with a lowercase p. And then Gandalf says, pity. Now that's a capital because it's the beginning of the sentence. But then he says, it was pity that stayed his hand. And when he says pity there, and then in the next sentence, pity and mercy are all capitalized. When Tolkien randomly capitalizes a word like that, West, he capitalizes West, he's not talking about California, he's talking about the Undying Lands. When he capitalizes pity, he's not saying, oh, I feel bad for that guy who fell off his roof and now he's laid up and he can't work. He's talking about the deep moral empathy that Matt was talking about. Mercy, he's not talking about just the fact that Bilbo didn't do something, but that he actively made a choice, because if we go back to that passage in The Hobbit, what Bilbo really did consider it, and we know what his internal monologue was, and he said, not a fair fight. I'm invisible. He can't see me. I'm armed. He's unarmed. It wouldn't have sat right with him if he had killed Gollum in that instance, even though Gollum was dangerous. So when we get into some of the arts and entertainments we see, books, movies, TV shows, streaming dramas, video games, all of the cornucopia of media that we're sandblasted in the face with, especially like what Sid was talking about earlier, and what Matt was talking about earlier, is that since COVID, we're just inundated with this stuff. How do we separate the wheat from the chaff? How does the cream rise to the top and everything? How do we figure it all out? What's moral and what's immoral and what's amoral? Because those are three completely separate concepts there. And it really comes down to, like, does this sit right with me? We see these examples of, I'm going to go to Star Wars here for a moment. There was a Star Wars film where Samuel L. Jackson has the main villain of the entire thing at his mercy. And he's convinced that he has to kill this guy because, in his own words, he's too dangerous to live. And then we have another character come in and stop him. But it's unfortunate because George Lucas has absolutely no moral compass. He's not telling a tale of morality. He's telling a tale of space samurai waving around glowing sticks. He gets it wrong. The character that's stopping him is not stopping him because he's about to murder someone who is helpless, or at least appears to be helpless. He's not saving Samuel L. Jackson's soul. He's trying to say, this guy's going to help me do something and I need him alive. He's thinking selfishly. And we're led to believe in the universe that exists, that not killing this guy was a grave error, and that it was on them, that they really should have done it. And Tolkien would have just, I mean, not he hated movies in general, but if he was seeing that one, I'm pretty sure he would have found somebody to beat up over it. And I mean verbally, a letter would have been sent.
And I want to be very clear here. And some people may dislike what I'm about to say.
I didn't realize I was going to get so worked up.
But what are the key dangerous motives that lead to these works that are, in outer appearance as epic of the Lord of the Rings, but utterly amoral, like that thing with Daenerys,
the Song of Ice and Fire.
Queen of Song of Ice and Fire, or immoral, like where George Lucas ended up.
Star
He started
Wars,
off much better.
Because
And
he
the
started
end,
off with Buddhism and then he wound up with whatever the masses wanted.
actually, more Taoism, but yes.
Yeah.
And why? What I believe, and I'll take some hits for it if you don't like what I say, please do comment. And that is, I think the argument that money is the root of all evil, not money per se, but the desire for it, is deeply corrupt.
That is the original biblical quote, right? The love of money.
I don't recall, but it definitely
Actually,
what was meant.
Matt's nodding, so I'm going to take that as a yes.
Okay.
You guys are correct. It's not money itself. It's what money can do to you that will corrupt your intentions and your thoughts.
And greed is one of the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah.
And in Buddhism, greed is one of the 3 roots of all
suffering.
Joe.
Yeah.
What did you say?
Oh, I was just saying that somebody in chat was correct. Continue.
Okay. So I think one of the reasons that the only Lord of the Rings based movies and TV shows I can even bear to watch is the 2001 Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings, is because it was under an extraordinarily rare set of constraints, especially the Fellowship. It wasn't known in the realm of movies and theater and drama and action adventure. It was an epic novel. And he knew that if he disappointed folks like us, the 3 of us and most of you on the line,
it was going to be his hide.
Yeah. And it would have, the reviews in the first week would have tanked it in the box office.
Thankfully, I went into that with optimism because I already liked a few of his films.
Yeah. He was financially obligated to remain true to Tolkien, and he wanted to during those 3 movies.
Well, also having his own vision as well, which is important for a director.
Yes, but he was sub-creating.
Yes, he was. And I'm so glad you brought this up.
Translating. Yeah. He was sub-creating a translation of a novel, an epic novel, into an action-adventure series of movies. Everything after that has not had those constraints, and without those constraints, moolah takes over.
Yeah, it becomes corporate greed and the big corporations meddling and everything. But I want to jump on something, since you brought up the movies, and yes, there were mistakes that were made. There were things that were changed that should have been changed. There were things that should have been changed that weren't. But I want to point out a scene that comes off very wrong-headed from a superficial standpoint, but actually is extremely Tolkien, because it didn't happen this way in the book, and it's sort of a little bit of character assassination against Theoden specifically, but it does work, is when Theoden wanted to kill Grima and Aragorn stopped him with the words, "Enough blood has been spilled on his behalf." Now, of course, in the book, Theoden has no desire to harm Grima. He feels great pity with a capital P. He shows mercy. He even offers him a horse. He's a good king. He was a better king in the book than he wasn't in the movie, and he was good in the movie. But this is the opposite of the Star Wars scene that got me so fired up earlier. And the chat noticed that I was getting fired up too. They said, "Wow, John's spitting fire right now," because I hate that scene in Star Wars. But this is where Aragorn is doing what he should. He's stopping Theoden because he's saving Theoden. He's not even thinking like what Gandalf is thinking, that Grima might have a part to play in the end and the wise don't see all ends. He's just thinking, let me stop this man from making the worst mistake of his life.
I want to add one last thing related to the choice of killing Palpatine when Mace Windu had the choice to do it. He said that he was too dangerous to let live. In The Lord of the Rings, Sauron is too dangerous to let continue.
Yeah. The Balrog
And
as well.
yes, a great point. That Gandalf was like, well, if I don't deal with this guy now, the Balrog has no problem operating in daylight. We're never going to make it to Lothlorien. He's going to hunt us down. The ring is going to go to the Balrog. The Balrog, it is such an unspoken
Yeah.
fact of what was going to happen if Gandalf
They're not
didn't just go, I got to
mortals,
take this
though.
guy out.
That's not the
Yeah.
that's not the end of them. They're not a lot. You know what I mean? Even mortals is not the end of
Yeah.
them, but he's not depriving them of what Iluvatar was giving them. There's a difference, you know.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I'm just saying that the moral clarity, the moral compass, the stepping up, the recognition of evil, and what to do about it in the end was why Gandalf let go of the ledge. He knew what he had to do, and Mace Windu wasn't able to do what he had to do because he was interfered with. But the idea that he had to take him out because he was too dangerous to let live is an exercise in rule utilitarianism. It is, you have to take this guy out because if you don't, more and more death and destruction will happen as a natural consequence of letting that person or that being continue to live on. And even Sauron has to have his day when he can't continue to do this anymore to people because he's just too dangerous.
The big
Yeah.
moral difference is that Gollum was crying in a ball in a fetal position. Grima was not attacking anybody. The
I agree
Balrog
with
is
that.
actively attacking them. Sauron is making war against the Free
I
Peoples.
totally agree with
Gandalf
that.
kills lots of orcs, probably some people at Helm's Deep. That's difference. That's battle and war. But we're talking about when somebody's at your mercy and is begging for it practically.
That's when it comes
That's
becomes
different.
murder.
And
Yeah,
Matt, help me find a quote since you had Gandalf quotes for the other five. I know there is a quote from Gandalf, probably in Shadows of the Past, where Gandalf explicitly says, I'm not going to get the words right, but the concept is do not kill except in cases of extreme need.
this goes back to the Christian, not just Christian. There's a lot of religions in the world that make it very clear, and I think right clarity and clarification between murder and killing. If
Yeah.
you are defending yourself, that is not murder. If you are defending your wife, your children, your neighbor from being murdered, and you have to do something that causes the death of that aggressor, that is not murder. It's a killing, but the difference is who started what and what necessary force was required at last resort.
Turin and Seiros.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Turin
And there's also
did not murder Seiros. He caused his death, but he did not murder him.
there's also, in terms of this in war, there's a philosophical piece called just war theory, which says if you have to kill, then go on and make reparation and make your enemy whole. And this was not used after World War One, which is why Hitler was popular in Germany in the 30s. It was done after World War II. Our enemy was the Nazi regime. It was not the German people. And we economically rebuilt Germany because Germany was the most liberal democracy in the world in the 1920s. And we rebuilt them to be a liberal democracy. And we rebuilt Japan to be Japan in the decade after the war. And that was actually a Catholic doctrine called the doctrine of just war. And by the way, there is a concept equivalent to that in Buddhism. Exactly the same idea.
Make
If
whole.
you have to, well, first of all, if you have to kill as few people as possible and make whole after the war is over. Identical teachings in Buddhism, although historically no connection, and Christianity.
Sid, I believe the quote you were speaking of was actually from the letters.
Really?
I believe it
Did you
was.
find it? Or?
No, I didn't, but I just remembered because he was talking about Faramir and sort of like Faramir's attitude towards war. And I believe it was one of his letters where he said, "This is the guy that gets it. He's there. He's a soldier. He's a ranger. He does fight wars. He does kill people, but he doesn't enjoy it. He doesn't revel in it. And he's not trying to kill as many people as possible. It's kill as few as possible." I believe that was one of his letters.
Yeah, well, that one was. I think there was another quote by Gandalf. I'll have to go look for it.
It's possible. I put the book away, so
Yeah,
we're out of time. But let's wrap this up.
Okay, well, the bottom
So
line
we can get to Matt's.
is that force has to be used defensively. It has to be used as last resort. It has to be used overwhelmingly morally, so that the death and destruction can be limited to as few as people as possible for the shortest duration,
Minimized,
and also
neutralized. And that's it. As far as you can go.
This goes back to the previous discussion as well, that Gandalf sets a moral example for all of the leaders, because he is the steward of Middle Earth. He is one of the Ainur, and when he's Gandalf the White, he is technically the moral leader. He's like almost like the Pope of Middle Earth at this point. He's on the front lines. He's not sitting like Saruman did, looking in a crystal ball clearly, and just sort of relaxing and letting everyone else do everything.
And what does he do? The most important task he has in terms of going out to fight is to save Faramir. He understands that Faramir is incredibly important to the Fourth Age. Gandalf's work as Gandalf the White, aside from that little thing about destroying the ring, is to protect all of the future faithful to be leaders of the Fourth Age in Middle Earth. And twice he goes out and rides against the Nazgul to protect Faramir.
Yeah, I was just, my mother, she's the one that got me into the Lord of the Rings, into the Hobbit, and she read the book once when she was young, and she's seen the movie 5 billion times. So sometimes I have to point out the things that were different. And there was the Siege of Gondor is one of my least favorite parts of the movie, because it's so dull and anemic compared to how exciting the book version is. It was this one instance where he could have added more and more action, and it actually would have made it more like Tolkien, because that was such an action-packed sequence. And I understand he didn't want to bring Imrahil into it, but it wasn't just Gandalf went out, Imrahil went out, a whole bunch of them went out to face the Nazgul and all the orcs that were there, and Faramir himself was still fighting, and it was all this glorious, amazing section of the book. And then what do we get? We get Ian McKellen shining a flashlight at some flying Nazgul, and then Faramir like kind of limping off of his horse and not even really being present in the scene.
We're going to get to some of this kind of thing.
And I love that we're segueing into Matt's section too.
Yeah. It was either a time constraint or a budget constraint. I guarantee it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Although it was a lot of that. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, everyone? I just before we start the next segment, you just all saw a segment that AI cannot do.
And that's the thing, is that all three of us at different points and for different reasons got passionate, and AI cannot experience passion. It cannot even emulate passion,
or the depth of the answers we just gave either. Really, but.
And it certainly doesn't do pity or mercy.
Okay. Kits has a question about the New Shadow. He started this, it was called The New Shadow. You could read it in the Peoples of Middle-earth book. It was a shady top secret organization is not exactly correct. it was a cult. He was going to write a story about people young men in Gondor who became disillusioned, and they felt like they were not exactly rising to the top because they thought they were better than they were and they should be rising to the top, deciding to play act at being orcs. And then Tolkien wrote one chapter and then just said, "This is garbage," and then he stopped. But actually, I think if you read it and you think about all the things that happen in real life and have been going on for, I don't know, like say the last 11 years or so, he knew what he was talking about. He knew the vulnerability of young men.
Yeah, I think he found a topic that was too small for him, and that's why he lost interest.
That's because he said there's no magic to it. It's just this story about a bunch of boys behaving badly. I'm not so interested in it. You're right. It was too small for him. Okay, Matt. 2-minute intro. Go ahead when you're ready.
All right. Today's little segment for me is going to be a little more pedestrian, but it's still going to be fun. And we are going to be looking at the Lord of the Rings, the movies, and getting a final determination from the three of us on the good, bad, and the not so ugly scenes from the Lord of the Rings that we each are going to score. I'm going to ask for a score from I'm going to say from 0 to 10 to 100, basically like a score for a report card, the old-fashioned
percentage.
good old
you want
way,
a
percentage way, yeah, of how it was accurate. And what I want to do is I want to name the ones that I'm going to bring up. We can all add our own when we're ready to, but I want each one of us to give a number so I can average them together and give the audience what our cumulative brains put together as an average for how well we thought that was following the book, just for people to kind of go, wow, that's really interesting discussion, and how what grade they kind of give it, kind of once and for all. We don't see this kind of thing out there very often. The nature of this show is actually kind of unique as far as a number of people, three people in one kind of group, and so I thought this would be kind of a fun thing to kind of get out of the way in one of our shows, and today is going to be the day.
Okay.
I'd like to insert one thought. Whenever we talk about a difference between book and movie, can we also assert whether we thought it was an improvement or a loss?
Yeah, that's I was going to mention, because Matt had said that earlier when we talked before you got on here, that's what he was going for as well.
Yeah.
Because there are changes to the movies that were good.
Yes.
There were some really good parts.
And Sid pointed out something also. There was, the three of us have seen all the interviews, everyone that ever existed, and we know some of the debates that Jackson and his team were having with the studios, because he was not the final arbiter of how long these were going to be, what was going to be in them, what the budget was. So a lot of these so-called mistakes were what you would call forced errors. They were forced errors by the studio, which we can kind of understand when it comes to budgets and timelines and this length of the movie and all that. We get that. I want to acknowledge that first out before we start this, because there were other things. I mean, if Jackson was here, on this show, he'd be like, well, wait a second. We were cut off from doing what we wanted to do.
You're right to say that before we start, because whenever you critique the movies in any sort of way, you get these people like, oh, well, they can't be exactly the same as the book. It's a different medium. Like, yeah, we know that.
Yeah, we know that.
Yeah, well, I want to carry that one further. There were two other types of forced errors we haven't explicitly named. One is, you just mentioned it, John, the change of medium. I mean, would anyone really want to watch an hour and a half of walking through the Midgewater marshes?
I knew you were going there. I love that joke. Well, you know what? I would say a 2-minute scene would be warranted, and you kind of montage it to make it seem like it's long. That's the way that I would go about it.
Which is what they did.
Yeah. Exactly. Sid, actually, before we even start,
I had 2 points.
Okay, go ahead.
I had 2 points. The other one is, it's also a change of generations.
Yeah, that's
particularly around the role of women. Can you really have a major movie with no long-term role for any heroic woman who does action in our in our third millennium era. So there were certain things that culturally changed that created what we were calling forced errors or forced changes that were
Absolutely.
good.
I wanted to point out, Sid, and this is going back to something you said earlier. I meant to comment on it, and then I forgot. You said that the only adaptation that you can bear to watch is the Peter Jackson version. You won't watch anything else. And I just want to say, the Ralph Bakshi slander will not stand. He did the only good version of Galadriel on screen.
I wasn't thinking that far back in time.
I was just gonna say, because somebody was saying, like, sometimes in the Facebook groups that I'm a part of, which are a lot of different Tolkien groups, they'll say, "Oh, that movie wasn't very good," and I'll say it's the only one that got the Mirror of Galadriel correct. It's the only time that Galadriel on screen felt like Galadriel to me. Ralph Bakshi had a lot of forced errors himself. He was forced to make one movie instead of two. He had like almost no budget at all. He did the best he could, and it's worth watching. I'm just saying.
Well,
All
what
the
I'd
way
like to
from Proud Pete forward.
what
Yeah,
I'd like
yeah.
to do is go through the good, bad, and not so ugly. And the section for not so ugly for me, for you guys
Wait,
to
hold on.
respond
Let me start the
first.
timer here. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, thank you. The not so ugly segment are the what I would call the fillers, things that were not in the book that were filled in by Jackson because of necessity, studio requirement, budget, blah blah blah, or he just said, "Look, we gotta encapsulate this somehow so the audience can follow along in a 3 hour and 20 minute movie," which I can also understand. But so that's why I call this not so ugly. In other words, it was ugly, but it wasn't so ugly. It was actually pretty decent as far as explanations go. So the first one we're going to go with section good is I would love to have a little brief comment and a score from John first, and then from Sid
And
on the
give us your
following.
scores in the chat too.
Yes, that'd be excellent. And I want to, so give me your comment as much as quickly as you can, then give me a number for both of you, then I'll add my score at the end and I'll keep track of it. So the first one is how
What's the scoring system?
Like a
1 to
zero,
percentage,
5, 1 to 10.
the
like
zero
a
zero through 100,
yeah,
like a teacher.
like you're grading a test.
Okay.
All things
Okay.
considered from the book to the movie.
Okay.
Okay. The first one is Amun Sul, the scene with the 5 Nazgul at Weathertop. Weathertop's known as Amun Sul. I'd like your opinions and grade for adaptation accuracy from Amun Sul, the scene from Amun Sul.
I give it a 60%. It's almost correct. The part that bothered me was the idea that fire would attract the Nazgul, sort of ridiculous idea. Frodo screaming at his friends and calling them idiots or whatever he said, you fools, because they were lighting a fire. It should have been Aragorn saying, "Yeah, let's light some more. Let's get some more fire going."
So 60.
60 for me for that scene. Yeah.
Okay.
That barely passed.
Your comments and score, Sid?
Well, my recollection is that the problem with the fire was that it simply said, "We are here," and Aragorn insisted that it be put out in the book.
No. They saw Aragorn walking around on the top of the hill already, and he told them fire keeps them away. Let's light some more fires. They're afraid of fire.
I think.
Because remember, he also fended them off with the flaming branch.
Oh, okay. At that, but there was an earlier point where he said, "Do not use fire, so we're not seen." But once they built a little fire to keep warm, yeah.
In the book, they just, because him and Frodo and Sam were walking around on the top of the hill too much, the Nazgul had already seen them.
Yeah.
So then the fires became a good idea. Maddie gave it a 33, by the way. But what's your take on that, Sid?
I haven't seen this since 2001, guys.
Well, you've got some movie watching this weekend, then, my friend.
You don't just occasionally just watch the films?
I don't want to.
I watched snippets. Anyway, let me make a shot at it. My felt sensation is Oh, I know. The thing that's going to trash the grade for me is Frodo simply panicking, not calling out the name of Elbereth and stabbing.
Yeah,
So actually,
that's
that was so bad. And the problem is this was generic all the way through. The way Jackson directed Frodo's character, just looking there and being stunned and afraid for 9 hours,
yeah.
really didn't work for me. So I'm actually going to take that 1 point and drop it to a 20.
Oof.
I
Okay.
thought for a moment, am I being too harsh? The answer, I guess, was not really.
Well, it might be because I have a different opinion on it. Um, you guys both scored this very low because of the fire scene, and
Yeah.
the scene itself is about 4 minutes long. And my feeling is, yes, I agree with you. My score has nothing to do with the fact that I don't agree with you. I do agree with you that the fire scene that you focus on, it was not done correctly. Um, but the balance of the way that Amansul was presented, the five Nazgul, the look of them in the afterworld, in the middle world. Yes, I understand Frodo was, weak and it was a little bit off
I thought
on
they
that.
looked like marshmallows.
I didn't enjoy the throwing of the flaming dagger into the middle of the face of the you know I didn't enjoy that either. But I felt that these are a couple of points off of an A, but I still give it a B minus in its general totality of its
Right.
seconds, of its amount of time. And so I'm scoring it an 80
Wow.
myself.
The numbers that come in from the
Yeah.
chat are like 33 and 50 right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you taking it more broadly, I actually kind of agree with you, Matt, because I do remember the one with the torch versus five, you know, battle of Aragorn and the Nazgul and their fear of fire.
I
That
did.
was well
That
done
was
and
good. Yeah.
directly, yeah, and in tune with the book.
So I
So
don't
if we're
want to I
broadening
don't
out to that,
I don't want to
yeah,
lobby when you guys do
But
your scoring because
I
that's not fair.
but I agree
But
with. I actually want to lower mine to a 55, and I'll tell you because of what Sid said about Frodo's lack of agency as well. That it was a problem endemic to the whole film.
okay, and I'll up mine to a 40 because if you look at I do remember being impressed by, again, the Aragorn with the torch and five undead
Yeah.
seemed right true to the book for me, and that is a plus.
Okay. What's the next scene, Matt?
the score for that was 58 total.
Well, what's the next scene?
So next scene, Balrog scene at the bridge of Khazad-dûm.
I give it an 80. It's really really good. Obviously it's missing a few parts. That's fine. They have to be expeditious and keep to their runtime and everything. I do wish that we got a little bit more of Aragorn and Boromir in that scene trying to help Gandalf. I would have loved to see Boromir blow his horn and watch the Balrog actually pause for a moment. But the actual like ethics of the scene and the way that it plays out and everything, even having Gandalf hang there on the ledge, not exactly book accurate, but it worked. I give it an 80. I didn't like the Balrog having wings, but I give it an 80.
Well, they weren't solid wings. They were pretty kind of in between, kind of a little bit.
Yeah, but even when he's doused with fire and you could
They
still
were
see his
smoky.
wings. You know.
I see. I
Yeah.
got you.
I
Sid?
think overall good scene.
Yeah.
Similar, I would actually go a little higher because they got right the larger context of the significance of the Balrog's fall.
The
And
music
I would
played a
actually
big
like to
part.
conclude with that the following, in the next movie, you get the whole
Oh
following
yeah, yeah.
underground and up. So I'll give it an 85.
Doing it as the intro to the Two Towers was a cool idea too.
Yes.
Okay. I again, I'm a little bit high only because I don't let the negatives reduce my score as much as you guys do because I really try to, in my own personality, I guess, or my way of thinking of it. I'm really thinking of the whole scene in totality, all the different factors of it, which might be in that scene alone, might be 20 reference points of, okay, check, 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 not check, not check, 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 check. So I go with a 90, and that means the total score for the three of us is an 85. Okay, next one.
The chat, by the way, is ranging from 75 to 90 on that one.
Okay, that's pretty good. Then next one is Boromir's death and temptation as a narrative,
100.
including his death scene.
100. 100. It was perfect. It was poignant. The changes that they made were good changes. Having Boromir with his final words acknowledge Aragorn as his king and his brother. Beautiful. That was actually Sean Bean's idea. It was perfect. 100.
Good. Sid?
I'm in the parts we've talked about, I agree. There was something, I'm trying to remember what it was.
Yeah, of course you get to rate. We want your ratings too, Ninetales.
When in the confrontation between Boromir and Frodo, I have a memory of thinking, wait, that doesn't feel quite right. That isn't what Boromir did. Do you think so too, John? Is there something in particular, the dialogue?
Well, I was only really thinking of the death scene. But the confrontation scene was a little short because they didn't have him ramble on and on and on like he did in the book, which is understandable.
Okay, fine. Yeah. I'm just going to agree with John on this one.
It's 100 for me.
I'm going to say 95 only because him talking out loud didn't bother me so much because it did a good job explaining what was tormenting Boromir's heart.
He did talk
that
in
the
book,
audience,
just less so.
Yeah, right. He went out, added a little bit more so the audience would be able to follow something that couldn't be done on screen unless you read the book, so I felt that was accurate. What I didn't like and did like is I didn't like Lurtz. I didn't like the captain.
I thought he was your favorite character.
Well, that's why I said good and bad.
I know, I'm joking.
I thought it was a good ad because a group like that of 60 orc would have had a leader. Okay, I accept that as a lore probability, I'll call it that. But it was not in the book. And he was shot by random bow and arrow, shooters.
Several shots.
Several. That he got hit 3 times. The scene was perfect, by the way. I agree with that. But it was an ad. It was this particular character that dominated this scene, and the fight between him specifically and Aragorn was an ad. However, it was a good ad. I agree it was a good ad, but it was not out of the book, so I give it a 95, and that's going to put us right around 97 for all of us. And we're moving.
By the way, the chat all giving that 100. It's one person even saying 110.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. I love that. I love this segment.
That's
okay.
One of the best scenes.
It is.
Matt, a quick question about the rating. Are you wanting us to rate it to accuracy to the book, or rate it to what works in the movie?
Accuracy to the book and its presentation, with demerits for deviations, multiple deviations. That's why I'm a little higher than you guys, because I'm looking at 10 to 15 positive points for these scenes that go on for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. And while I agree with your negatives, I'm demeriting as opposed to saying, okay, that didn't follow it at all, therefore I'm giving it a 50 or 40. That's kind of my theory for how I'm grading this.
Yeah.
I think I think we should all grade the way our emotions take us to.
That's fine.
I was grading more on the significance of the change.
Yeah, that's kind of a little closer to my thought as well.
Well, I think that 97 is a good number, and it matches with the audience.
That's an amazing number.
Which is really cool because, when the audience has the same agreement with experts like us, you're looking at solid gold cinematic history.
By the way, before we go to the next one, I just wanted to point out that Ninetales, where you said Balrog 90, Boromir 110, more than one person gave that 110, by the way. On the Twitch side, Moogle said it looked like they were a football score there. Actually, with a score that high, it's probably basketball.
Next, last one for the
Ninetales, we
good
do this
segment.
show. I'm sorry, I just have to answer this. We do this show the first Thursday of every month.
Yeah. Next one is Gollum's treachery as a narrative line.
The whole
How
of it?
well it followed the book. How well they follow the book with his treachery, his complex torture, with his situation. And again, maybe we're looking at pity and mercy again. But how well did Gollum's treachery narrative line follow the book in its totality?
I'm conflicted on this. I'm going to give it a 75.
Mm-hmm.
Because on the one hand, I felt like there are certain scenes where Gollum comes off way too evil.
Mm.
And there are certain scenes where he comes off like a puppy. So I think a little bit more tempering was needed, but what was absolutely correct was all of the dialogue and the way that it was done, especially when he was talking to himself in the two different voices and having the reflection be Gollum and him himself be Smeagol. I thought that was a very brilliant choice to make the audience understand exactly what's happening. Yeah, it's a 75. It's there's good and bad. I think the good outweighs the bad.
Gotcha. Thanks, John. Sid.
I'm going to give it 100 for exactly the same reasons John gave it a 70.
I love when that happens.
Because I really, as I read the book, Gollum was quite puffyish, and he was quite evil, and just
Oh, I didn't. I wasn't clear
Well,
there. I meant
yeah.
there were times where he looked like it was the way he looked. They made him too cute.
Oh, okay. But what I would say is the one or maybe two or three scenes where he's talking to himself, that performance as an actor
So good.
is a solid 200 every time it
Yep.
occurs. So whatever the other negatives are, throw them out. And
Okay.
I can't really go over 100. So
Okay.
I'll go 100 on it.
So it's a 200 demerited down to a 100.
Yeah, but that's because it's an odd asymptotic.
I mean, that's a little more difficult because that's not a single scene.
Yeah.
It's a thread that goes throughout the Two Towers and the Return of the King as well.
Yeah.
I am at, for the factors of the 500 years with the ring, the fact that he is basically surrounded and very heavily corrupted and tortured by Sauron's literal proximity, if not penetration, and the fact that they did a really, really good job with the idea of a bipolar, an unnatural bipolarization.
That's not
of
bipolar. That's schizoaffective disorder.
Thank you. Okay, schizoaffective, but it's an unnatural schizoaffective. It's brought on by Sauron, and I think that was done very, very well. And I kind of in the middle of both of you, so I gave it a 90. With that, it comes out as an 88 as an average between the three of us.
Great bait made. I rated an 8 out of 8.
Okay, next section, bad stuff. The stuff that's just like makes you want to pull your eyebrows off your head. The first one, Faramir's character assassination. They call it a character assassination, but
Mutilation.
the inaccuracy, mutilation is okay. What do you think? Justifications and a score.
Faramir in general is I give him like a. He got where he needed to be, but Peter Jackson he had to show arcs, and sometimes he didn't understand that Tolkien was showing arcs, even if the characters showed up fully formed. A lot of things Faramir went through before Frodo met him. He's in his 30s. He's been around the block a few times, and he instead they had to show him as basically being a clone of Boromir, and then slowly coming around. They couldn't even get the character to look right or anything. They removed the narrative. They removed like almost all of the romance with Eowyn, which is really beautiful in The Return of the King, the book.
Mhm.
It's hard for me to think of any one thing that they got right about Faramir. I'm going to give it a 20. And the reason that I'm giving it even that much is because in the extended edition, at least they included the strong bond between Faramir and Pippin.
That's true.
I'm I same reasoning, but the making him a conflicted character who did the right thing in the end was so utterly wrong to an utterly essential element of the book.
It's offensive.
If you go all the way back to the Council of Elrond, you will meet unexpected enemies and friends on the way. And I really believe Frodo's soul was nearly crushed by not being able to get in Black Gate and having to deal with Gollum, and Faramir's steadfastness, I would say, as a disciple of Gandalf in particular, but I said I would not pick it up. I therefore must live by it, no question, was too important to the book. And turning that into a wishy-washy waffle and last minute becoming moral zero. It means too much for me.
I almost went there myself, but like I said, I give him a little credit for including the bonding with Pippin, but it really is bad.
Did you say 0, Sid?
He sure did.
0.
Okay.
As in,
we're getting 0s and 33s and stuff like that in the chat.
Yeah,
as well.
I'm gonna go with a little higher score than John, but it's still heavily failing. For one main reason, I don't see Faramir's temptations as being a failing in the reading so much as part of Faramir's quality. In other words, his conflict to me seemed to be that he was given express orders by his father, had an expectation of what to do by his brother, and was being given advice from his subordinates about what the king expected of him. And this was to his quality that he felt. I mean, good people like Faramir follow orders. They follow their father's directives. He doesn't want to break with order. I see the conflict there.
I have to disagree.
Mostly.
Baragon didn't follow orders, and he was right to not follow orders.
He in the end he didn't follow those orders. He did show his own quality by deviating from all of the expectations of his men, his father.
I agree in the one sense that there was a conflict. He was briefly conflict, but it was briefly. He didn't drag them to Osgiliath.
I agree. I think that the rest of Faramir's portrayal, a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it was fairly redeeming. However, I do give it a I'm going to go with the 30.
We need to move on before I wind up lowering mine, because I just remembered how they messed up the Forbidden Pool too.
Well, you can lower it right now, John.
I'm not gonna. Let's just move on.
Okay, so I got 50 divided by 3 there. That's about a 15 from all of us. Okay, next one, Gimli's comic relief aspect.
I hate it.
Overriding everything else.
I hate it. I hate the way that Gimli was playing the fool. I also hate the way that Pippin was playing the fool, and I hate the way that Sam was occasionally playing the fool. And I think what it comes down to is either Peter Jackson not understanding Tolkien's humor, or thinking that the audience was too stupid to understand Tolkien's humor, and therefore it needed to be much more slapsticky. And like Gimli to me in the movies comes off more like a Laurel and Hardy sort of character, and not so much what I was saying earlier, the paragon of what a dwarf is supposed to be. And Book Gimli is funny. There are so many really insanely funny moments from the books that did not wind up in the movie. Laugh out loud stuff that he left out because he either didn't get it or he thought audiences wouldn't get it. Gimli's characterization in general, I get to give him points for the interactions with Legolas. 30. 35. 35. That's where I'm at.
Got it.
John, before I give my answer, how well do you think he did on Gimli and Galadriel, which is
That's why
quite
it's
central?
that's why it's a 35 and not like a 10. I think that was good. I just wish we had
Okay.
actually seen the scene instead of just him telling Legolas about it later.
I found a certain beauty in that. So you gave it 35, is that right?
35, yeah.
I'll go for a 40.
You're very close there.
Yeah.
I am gonna go with a 50, only because I'm gonna yeah 40.
I just
and
winced when you said Gimli, and I was like, oh no, like because it
the
just
reason
kills me.
the reason I'm going with 50 is because I'm thinking about all of Gimli's roles, and but again, the question isn't about all his roles; it's about the comic relief aspect of it. I'm not so hot about it. Um, uh,
I mean, we really
I'm gonna
didn't need nobody tosses a dwarf.
No, I know
You
there was
know,
a lot of that
yeah.
in just this comic relief aspect. I'm going to give it a 45, and that means that this is a 120 divided by 3. That's going to be a 40 average, from
Yeah.
all of us. Okay, next one, Army of the Dead, over involvement and significance.
I'm gonna give this. I'm gonna split this down the middle. This is it's just like a 50 for me. It's pretty bad. I don't like the way they looked. I thought they looked like pond scum. I don't like that they showed up at Pelennor Fields. It takes away from all of the glory of Aragorn and Éomer doing the glorious thing that they did in the Battle of Pelennor Fields, and it made it seem like just some ghosts showed up and did all the work for them. Well, and it made people the damage that it did to the community of Tolkien. It made people vastly misunderstand what the dead men of Dunharrow are and why they're there. Isildur did not curse them. He does not have the power to do that. It was Iluvatar that put them into that position, or rather, it was themselves and not fulfilling their oath to Iluvatar that put themselves there, I should say. It's just like what Feanor went through and his sons. The only reason that it's not lower is because I would have thought this might have even not even made it into the movie, so at least they included the dead men of Dunharrow.
Interesting. Good.
What's your number?
50.
Oh, it was 50, yeah. Right down the middle for me.
I found the Aragorn, well, them coming up the river with Aragorn, and then being a major part of the Battle of Pelennor Fields, so totally off in two ways. One is it missed the you have fulfilled your oath. Their oath was to defend their own land against Sauron.
Which was Pelargir. Exactly. Yeah. You're right.
And so and Aragorn's releasing them the moment they had done what they were supposed to have done hundreds of years ago.
And you know what? You're right. Not only are you right, you're more right than you think you are, because in the book, Aragorn, he didn't say, I release you. He said beforehand, if you do this, I will consider it fulfilled. And when he looked, they were already fading away.
Yeah. And that was so much the opposite of by making them swear an oath to Iluvatar, Isildur, I would say, made a mistake that he should not have warped them into. And it showed the difference between the weakness of Isildur as a leader and the true leadership of Elendil and Aragorn. It's too important. And I also felt it dulled the movie. I mean, now we get to the Battle of Pelennor Fields, and you have, surfing Legolas and the undead, and it's like,
Yeah,
The
it,
whole
it,
the
it
whole
was a bit
scene,
much. Yeah.
yeah, the whole
By
scene
the way,
tanked
a
on that.
point coming in from the chat that I agree with is this is one of the few moments where the theatrical version was less bad because having more of the Dead Men of Dunharrow was not a great idea because they got it so wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with 25.
Okay, I am going to divide this and bifurcate this between first half Army of the Undead and second half presentation from Corsairs onward. I thought the first half of this was actually really good. It felt like a dead world. It felt like dead people. I didn't enjoy the color green so much, but I kind of get what he was kind of going after in the end. I love the invisibility of this. This is, remember, this is like 2002 movie technology. It was pretty damn good, actually, being 25 years ago almost. And even when I see it today, I still look at that scene and just go, okay, that was done really actually pretty well as far as the way they presented themselves in the middle world, if you want to call it that.
Do you know what I would do with the Dead Men of Dunharrow as a
Hmm.
less distracting special effect? I would have them in monochrome. They would be in black and white.
Hmm. Well,
To
he kind
show.
of was achieving that with that green
Yeah, well,
and
I didn't
black.
like the green was just too much.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I look at it from first half of what Dunharrow looked like, what the army looked like, the skeletons. I mean, the
I'm
skulls
stopping the
everywhere.
timer, by the way, because I want us to be able to finish this.
Thank you, John. And so I'm saying it hit and miss, giving it a 50.
Yeah, I told you
And that
guys
gives
Matt's
us
section was going to be fun.
125 divided by 3 is a 42 on that. Again, I was
That's the
bifurcating the
answer
first
to
half.
the answer to life and everything in the universe. 42.
Oh, that's awesome.
According to the
Well,
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, at least.
you guys are gonna love this. Don't throw tomatoes at the screen, please.
Okay.
The Eye of Sauron is the last one in the bad section. Reasons and score.
For what it did as a film and representing Sauron and his overlook and everything, I completely understand it. For what it did to the community, for people believing that really was him, I don't even think
Mhm.
that Peter Jackson intended that. I think that was unintentional. I don't think that Peter Jackson meant for people to think that eye was actually Sauron. So a lot of this is kind of on the audience themselves.
Mhm.
That being said, it's not a great design. And one of the few things that I didn't hate about the Hobbit movies was that they at least showed that Sauron was really there, that he was the iris of the eye. But God, I still
Did it follow the book? Unfortunately, is the question.
well, there is an Eye of Sauron. It does
Yeah.
exist. It's not a metaphor like some people say. Sam saw it twice. Once in the Mirror of Galadriel and once at Mount Doom when he looked over at the Dark Tower, he did see the Eye of Sauron. It wasn't constantly there. It should have been peeking out of the windows. The design of the Dark Tower itself was almost not cool enough. So I will say that if you watch the Lego Batman movie, which is, by the way, one of the most delightful children's films I've ever seen, they actually have Sauron as the entire tower with the eye on it in the movie, like walking around. It's hilarious. But yeah, as an adaptation, I understand it. I get it. It's a 38. I
38.
understand. Yeah, it's a 38. I understand it. I get it. I hate it.
Yeah. I need to think this one through a little. Someone, I think it might have been you, Matt. This was over a year ago. Talked about it, the big eye on the top of the tower as something like the Eye of Sauron on a radio tower. Was that you, Matt?
Yeah, it was.
Okay. Um, After you said that, I went and I saw the Tolkien art where you got Barad-dûr as a three-story sandstone castle with a guy looking out the third floor window. And that was Tolkien drawing it. It was like, wait a second, what's going on here? But in the book, I saw the eye as something that people saw in their minds, and it's had a and there is language of saying Sauron was always looking. And at the time, people saw this great red eye. So compared to that language in the book, leaving Tolkien's picture aside, it felt reasonable. And so we think of it as a psychic phenomenon, a projection of evil,
A spell.
omniscient evil. That's the
Yeah.
word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
It fit. I'll give it a 58.
By the way, somebody in the chat brought up a point that I kind of agree with, is that the visual itself is kind of cool, but when you see it over and over again, it kind of loses its edge after a while.
Yeah.
My thoughts on it are, I agree with Sid. It's always something that people see in their mind. When I first saw the movie, I looked at the scenes and I thought, okay, they're going to get this right because they're seeing it in their eye. You know, they saw it at the Prancing Pony. They showed that it was seeable in their mind.
Even in Bag End.
Yeah, in Bag End, they were starting to show that. The very first time I saw them represent this long distance coming right up to his face on the top of a tower, I thought my very first instinct was, that's kind of cool. And my very next instinct, 2 seconds later, was that pissed me off.
Yeah, that's why I said
And
I get it, but I hate it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, totally. And then I went on to be looking for more opportunities because I kept waiting for them to show a unconstituted soot or smoky form of his unconstituted aura on the throne in Barad-dûr, like they showed Saruman in Orthanc, to show him in his ominous setting and talking to his subordinates or something, or going or talking through the Palantir in some weird way. And I was waiting for that and waiting for that and waiting for that. And the more I think about it now, the more I just go, who is giving him advice to not show the actual main dude in his tower?
I think Tolkien is the one giving him the advice there, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I have to go. Tolkien's whole point is this is Frodo's story from what Frodo and the people who talked to him primarily in Minas Tirith before they left to head back to the Shire all said, and nobody saw that.
Yeah.
I understand that. I understand that. I'm hoping for something that's an ad, and in
but
this.
What did you think of the battle through the Palantir with Aragorn and how Sauron was depicted in that?
I thought that was accurate.
That was good. Yeah, I like that too.
But why didn't it give you what you wanted then?
Because of all the scenes they had through the Palantir and in their mind were all accurate, but Sauron as an eye on the spire on top of Barad-dûr was a bridge too far for me. I was like, if you're going to invent that, and go so far for that, then why not do something more accurate, which is where, despite what was being told in the story by Frodo, isn't the point. If you're going to add something that actually makes sense to where Sauron would be in his unconstituted form. Let's see the throne room.
Why do
Let's
you
see
keep
him give
saying
an order.
unconstituted?
He was fully embodied by that.
He wasn't fully. He wasn't fully embodied yet without the ring.
Yes, he was. Gollum
Yes, he
himself said it.
Yeah,
he was still missing a finger.
I agree that he had a form and he was missing a finger, but I do not believe, in my own mind, in my own interpretation, that he was in totally solid form yet. That he had an outline to him. It was aware. Gollum was aware that there was a finger missing, but he wasn't. They could have made him so absolutely ominous in that setting in his throne room.
Well, I mean, even the
without,
example of
without the flaming tower thing.
Well,
point.
I said, I'm not sure that Peter Jackson intended for us to think that that eyeball was Sauron, and that I think that that's on the audience for making assumptions.
I do agree with you guys about the general nature of why it was maybe generally expedient to represent it that way. I do agree with that part of it.
I just
But
think
I'm going to give.
I think what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you're saying, well, if they're gonna mess up and show Sauron, at least make it cool.
Cool and even semi more
You know.
accurate in my mind. To me, it would have
Because
been more accurate to show him
the
that way
eyeball,
than a
like I said,
flaming eye on top of
the eyeball is something that the more you see it, the lamer it is.
I would agree with that too, especially
Yeah.
when it's that massive and a big eyeball focusing its pupil and all that.
We got
I
way
didn't
too
go for
many
that.
establishing shots of the top of the Dark Tower.
Exactly. So I gave it a
And
40.
yeah.
I gave it a 48 just to keep with the eights, I guess, because I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle of you two, and so I just picked 48.
Okay.
And that means the score in the end for the average is 48 between us three, so it's less than 50. Okay, last section.
The not so
ugly, not so ugly, or fillers that we think were good, generally okay, not so fugly. First one, wizard duel at Orthanc between Gandalf and Saruman as a plausible, possible explanation for how Gandalf got trapped there.
Hate it. I hate that they fought. I hate the weird shot of Gandalf flying up into the ceiling and then the cut to black and then suddenly they're on the roof. I just everything about it gave me the ick. Yeah, it's like a 12.
Okay, 12.
I'm totally withdrawn, except I'm going to break my own rule. It's a minus 50.
Oh, I'm giving you a 0,
It's
by
a
the
0,
way.
yeah. Adjusted.
Well,
just like an insurance adjuster, I'm just going to change that to a 0.
Okay, but when Chris and I saw it, we looked at it and says, this is the opposite.
Yeah.
Of everything Gandalf was and everything Saruman was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The whole point is they didn't fight.
Saruman won. He thought he could put Gandalf in timeout, and then Gandalf would come around to his way of thinking.
Yeah, and Gandalf was probably had an Uruk-hai on each arm and walked him up to the top of the tower.
Well,
the spinning is what's being brought up in the chat, and everybody's making fun of the spinning part. It is really not good.
Yeah. Okay, so this is going to be the part where we deviate the most. Only because the main reason for me is, yes, this is a filler. And we've all written a lot, guys. And I've written articles on this too. And I just think this is the most plausible reason he was trapped there. He wasn't trapped by Uruks. He wasn't trapped by a mouse trap. He wasn't trapped by. There had to have been some confrontation between them, and they do know spells. All right, we know that they know spells. So I thought, minus the spinning around and all that part of it, I look at this as a Numenorian tower. There had to have been weird doors, trap doors, access to the top, because there's someplace I read that the Numenorians did go to the top of this flat top. There was a door up there that allowed them to get up to the top. And so it all seemed to make sense to me as the most plausible sense. I just liked it. And I guess, we don't very often disagree. This is all a matter of interpretation, obviously, but I thought it was more like an 80. You guys are going to hate me forever. I thought it was more accurate as a reason for.
Wait, I got to hear what the average is now. You don't need to justify it. That's your opinion.
Well, yeah, thank you. And I just, last thing I just want to say about it is just to give it one last thing is I felt it made the most sense.
Hold on a second. We just lost Sid.
Oh, he hung up on me.
Wait, hold on. Let me let's give him a chance to come back here, because he's completely offline. It's possible his internet might have gone out. The good thing is it didn't screw you up. You're still on the screen where you need to be. And I'm still, well, I'm a separate source, but Sid just vanished on us. He just put on his ring and he's gone.
He's mad at me.
No, he was smiling.
It's okay.
He was
He's always the
laughing.
one saying always the one saying in different interpretations. There's what he's looking for, and many times you don't have the different
You're back, Sid.
interpretation. Sid, I'm channeling all your desires in the past for.
He's
I'm
back.
back.
Yeah, you disappeared for a little while.
Yeah, there's a power failure on my end.
Okay, I thought it might be something like that.
That led to an internet failure, and then
it came
I was
up.
trying to call you.
Came up pretty
and my
quick.
phone. My phone rebooted with the new.
Sid, I'm channeling.
Yeah.
I'm channeling all the times in the past you were hoping for divergent opinions about things.
We got it.
This is your dream come true. Sorry, but all I wanted to say in the end.
Now, Matt, you realize he was right that we don't always have to agree.
No, I've always known that, and but
this
is a filler.
I teach it to you, but you caught on quicker than I thought.
This is a filler, so it's not interpretive out of the book. It's a filler for what we think might have happened, and we know
but Gandalf told us what happened.
Well, it wasn't very well described in the books at all. Actually,
it was. He said that he was told that he was going to be held there, and he asked how long, and he said until the end, and then he said he was led up to the top of the tower.
I was led up.
But I also, there's a lot of other things that I dislike about that, but it's getting away from the wizard duel. I didn't like the moth. I didn't like the fact that it seems like Gandalf was summoning Gwei here because that did damage to the Tolkien community. People think Gandalf controls the eagles. I don't like that the eagles don't talk. But I was just trying to stick to just the wizard battle.
Well, I was talking about the whole.
What were the numbers? I missed it because
it was a 12 from me, a 0 from you, and he's giving it an 80.
Well, I'm giving it the whole scenario for him going there and being trapped. Now, what I didn't like when I read the book, even when I was young, I was like, wait a minute, this is such a good book. Why did we have more detail about what could have happened there? And even to this day, I'm older now, and I'm like, I don't agree with Tolkien on this. In fact, this is the number one thing I don't agree with Tolkien on, which was leaving this dialogue out between the two. I mean,
we got a whole conversation.
The full way it went down, all the way from the beginning to the end, how he got trapped and how he couldn't resist Saruman at all.
What was missing? He was led up to the top of the tower and he was left there, and then eventually. Yeah, and then eventually Gwei here showed up and he left, and then when Saruman checked on him, he was gone. Gotcha.
Anyway, bottom line is, I like the ad. I didn't like everything about the ad. That's why I gave it an 80. But anyway, the average for that is a 31. Obviously, 31 is a huge failure. Okay, next one. Lighting of the beacons.
Oh, you know what? This is my favorite ad. I think it's one of the best scenes. Yes, I know it's not accurate. In the book, Pippin sees the beacons as they're arriving at Minas Tirith, and Gandalf explains what they're for. And yes, the function of the beacons is very different in the films than it is in the movie. In the movie, it was to alert Rohan specifically to come to Gondor's aid. In the book, it was to alert the rest of Gondor, all the other cities, that they should come to Minas Tirith. But the actual scene is beautiful. I got to give it like 92. Love this scene.
Even though it's a plausible ad.
It's completely plausible. I love it. It's a 92.
Got it.
Sid?
I'm not quite, same thinking as you, John. I'm not quite as enthusiastic. I'll give it an 80.
By the way, John, you were right. The voice situation for Sid is awesome.
Yeah, we fixed it.
Yep. I'm gonna go with John on this at a 90.
The chat's all giving 100s, by the way, for this.
Yeah, I would say 90 because it wasn't in the book. That's part of our criteria here, is whether it was in the book or not. Yes, it was an ad. These were for fillers.
Yeah.
It wasn't done perfectly, but it was brilliant. It was brilliant how it was done. It seems to be plausible to me, so I kind of go with you on that, John.
Yeah.
And therefore, we are talking about a 92 plus 90
I think it was a
plus
necessary
80
change.
divided by 3. We give that an 80, and this is an 87 as a total.
That's a
All right,
that's
next
a high
one.
total.
Yeah, 87. Anything over 80 is pretty damn good when you're
Yeah.
talking about Tolkien. Okay, next one. Arwen rescuing Frodo.
Well,
you know what?
I have a question about it. Are we talking about the overall replacement of Glorfindel with Arwen?
Yes, and whether we thought it was an actually good filler, did it help or hurt, or was it completely inaccurate and stupid? Even though,
I like it.
Mhm.
I get it.
Mhm.
Glorfindel wasn't going to be in the movie. I get it. Even though I
that's
would
true.
love for him to have been there, he doesn't appear enough to justify him being there. Even Ralph Bakshi understood this. He put Legolas there, which I thought was a little off, but okay. We talked about this earlier. This is the cultural difference. This is the generational difference that Sid brought up.
Mhm.
We need to see Arwen in more than just like 2 or 3 scenes. She's too
Mhm.
important of a character. Tolkien even said that The Lord of the Rings was not finished, and Arwen was a big part of why it was not finished. She was added almost at the end of the writing cycle. So beefing up her role is great. The problem that I had with it was that it made it seem like she was the one who called the flooding of the Fort of Bruinen. She doesn't have a ring of power. She can't do that. So I'm going to give it a 70.
Okay, good.
Okay. I'm going higher. First of all, I've written about this long. There's a very strong rule in movies that doesn't apply as much in novels about not adding major characters late. So avoiding adding Glorfindel was something a movie had to do that a book wouldn't have had to do. It would have been just too confusing. Similar with Imrahil, though I think that was another kind of loss.
I really do wish we got Imrahil, though.
Yeah,
me too.
Put it out for next month, and we can.
I could understand cutting out Erkenbrand and Beregond and a few others, but Imrahil hurts.
It hurts, but I don't think the audience could have handled it for what he really was. Just would have been beyond them. But anyway, these are both things I've written. If you want to learn more about this, just go to my profile on Quora and type in movie Arwen, and then type in.
Oh, I understand, Ninetales. Glorfindel's your favorite character. I get it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sid. Go ahead.
Yeah. And then type in Imrahil, and you'll see what you get. But basically, for personal reasons, the arrival of Arwen in the movie was utterly uplifted me at a time when I was having great difficulty. The need for a strong female character was the way they did was essential. In the books, Arwen has a much bigger part than they talk about, in that she is constantly looking over Aragorn, meaning protecting him, beginning to end. And so I'm going to give it 100.
I want to pick up by saying something you said, Sid, that I really agree with, which is the aspect that they showed when Aragorn fell off the cliff, and they showed the up and down horizontal picture of Arwen coming down and kissing him,
and then it was
showing
the
that
horse.
she was oh my gosh, the horse scene was so hilarious.
That was one of the ones that actually was funny.
That horse and the way that they portrayed her hovering over him and kissing him and him being woken up by his horse that found him, that was my 100. I had a lot of 110s in that movie, but that was a 110 for me. I was just like, that is so epically awesome.
The dialogue there, "This is a dream, then let it be a good dream."
Yeah, and he gets kissed by his horse. I mean, it's just, oh my gosh, it's hilarious.
Viggo Mortensen kept that horse, by the way.
What if Arwen's intervention was both to be there with him spiritually and to make the horse lick him up?
By the way,
That is
the
totally right on.
the chat is so all over them. We got a 0, we got an 85, we got like a, what was that other number in there? There's a 60. Just like it's just all over the place.
I have divided by 3. I have 87 for that as well.
87.
From our
That's
average
great.
score
Yeah.
for the 3 of us. I gave it a 90, by the way. And the only 10 points I took off it was because it was a good filler, but it was a little for me it wasn't perfect. It was pretty good though, considering it to be a filler.
Yeah.
Okay, last one for my segment. Elves arriving at Helm's Deep.
This is hard because obviously it didn't happen in the book. It's a complete ad. I will say that the idea of it is very Tolkien.
Yeah, I agree.
The execution of it is terrible. They killed off a character that doesn't die in the book. Why? Why did you do that to Haldir? And why is Aragorn in that scene such a bad commander that he would tell them to stop shooting arrows and charge? So it's like,
Drama.
yeah, good idea, bad execution. Oh, it is a very Tolkienish idea to show that like a rekindling of the alliance of elves and men.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah.
It's
It's
tough
drama.
one.
He fell into drama.
It's hard. It's hard to come up with a number there. Like the idea of it is so good, and it was mishandled. That kind of makes it worse, in my opinion. I'm gonna give it like a 25.
Okay, thank you, Sid.
I'm sitting here balancing between a 10 and a 30, so I'll just split myself in half like Solomon did with the baby and call it a 20.
20 for him. I loved it too, and didn't like its execution either. I'm gonna say a 30, and that's gonna give that
almost worse.
It's gonna
than having a bad idea is to have a good idea and then to do it poorly.
What I liked about the filler was the dramatic add to it. When he was killed, I was like, okay, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But it had an effect on the audience. It had an effect on the viewers. I hate to score it for that. I'm only giving it a 30, but I agree with you guys. It was down there. Anyway, average for that is 25, and we are done with my segment, and that was fun.
You know what's interesting about that, Matt, is that, and tell me if you guys agree with me on this. If that wasn't a planned scene, they probably wouldn't have even included Haldir at all. He probably would have been cut out of it completely, because he really is like a one scene character.
Yeah.
You know, they cut his brother out obviously because he wasn't very important. But I feel like Haldir, you know, he wound up being in all well, not all 3 movies obviously, but he wound up being in the first 2 when he really would have only been in one scene. And I think if they had not written that, they had not planned to have him show up at Helm's Deep, they would have probably just cut him out completely. So that does make it not the worst thing ever. But at the same time, he should not have been killed off like that.
Well, Haldir was less problematic than including Glorfindel and Tom Bombadil. Those 2 guys would have made audiences go, what crack am I smoking? I mean, they would have not understood what was going on. I understand why they had Haldir in there. He's a good actor. He's a well-known actor. He probably had a contract clause. But I don't disagree with you guys. I just gave it we're all at about 25-ish.
Yeah.
And
yeah, no, so we're pretty lockstep there, huh?
Yeah, I agree with that. We only had.
I was waiting for you to be like, it's 100. It's perfect. Uh-oh. What happened? What is going on? Uh-oh. You guys, I'm sorry. Something's happening. Right. I don't know what's happening, but Matt and Sid both just froze up on me, and I'm not hearing them. I see them, but they're just frozen in time here. And there we go. We're back. Okay.
Okay.
I believe that might have been a Discord problem because from my end, it looked like you two just froze in time and I didn't hear anything.
All I
I
was saying,
saw the
all I-
video and I had no audio at all.
Yeah, that was
all I
weird.
was saying was that out of the 12, we had general agreement on 10 of the 12. We only had 2 that were separated by 50 points by various reasons.
That's a
Anyway, cool.
fun idea.
Yeah, that's cool. Those are good numbers. That's interesting.
I'd like to add another one to the pile if we could.
Yeah, this is the chance to add. I'm not going
Right.
to say anything. Go ahead.
Let's add
Yeah.
another one to the pile. The
Sure.
omission of the Scouring of the Shire.
You mean ranked on a good decision or a bad decision?
Exactly. The omission. And I know everybody and their mother makes the same tired, ignorant joke. Oh, the movie already had 17 endings. Shut up. All the different stories were ending. That's so important, right? I when I was sitting in the theater, I even thought we're not going to even get the Grey Havens, are we? I was glad we did. But like when they just glossed over that and they killed Saruman off screen. I'm in the movie theater. What happened to Saruman? Who even knows? You had to buy not even the first DVD, but the second one that came out, the extended one, to find out what happened to Saruman. Saruman just vanishes from the movie, like he didn't exist. And so I was thinking when I was in the theater watching The Return of the King that we were going to get some sort of abbreviated version of the Scouring of the Shire, and at least an allusion to it. But oh my god, I hate that they left it out. The Return of the King never should have been one movie. It's too long. It should have been 2 movies. But that being said, what do you guys think?
I agree.
Well,
It
you're
actually
gonna
should
score?
never.
Are you gonna score?
I'm too tired to score, but
Okay.
but it was leaving it out was an abomination.
It's the whole point of the book.
Yeah. I mean, remember when Gandalf says that the whole point of Merry and Pippin going all the way on their journey was so that they could come back as leaders of the Shire.
And we saw elements of it in the Mirror of Galadriel too in the movie. It almost seemed like they planned to do it but couldn't. Like maybe it was one of those things that just wasn't in the budget,
Yeah,
but
that is quite possible. Either it wasn't in the budget or they thought it was would be too much for the viewers.
Yeah, I mean, I know that Peter Jackson wanted to include the War in the North, like a scene of that as well, and it wasn't in the budget, so that's very possible. But for me personally, the Scouring of Shire is so incredibly important. If you're reading the book and you're thinking, "What is this crap?" Maybe read through it and then come back. Maybe take a year, come back, read the book again. The more you read it and the older you get, the more you'll understand the necessity of the Scouring of the Shire.
But make sure to start at the rereading Gandalf's departure to go see Bombadil, because that's where he explains why it has to happen.
Yep. Matt?
I didn't like that it was out just as much as I didn't like Tom Bombadil being. Well, that's not true. I didn't like the fact that Tom Bombadil was left out also. But I understood why they did it. I agree with the decision to not go after it because my thinking at the time, when I noticed that they weren't going to cover it, I literally had to take a couple of hands of popcorn, have another big swig of my watered down Coke, and just go, in order to do that right, so that they wouldn't destroy the movie with the fans more, they would have had to have added, to do it right, they would have had to add 45 minutes to the movie.
I think you could do it like 20 minutes.
I was going to say 25.
The Scouring of the Shire?
Yeah.
There's no way they could have done that in 20 minutes. Anyway, my point is I agree why they left it out, because it had to have been done right. Tom Bombadil would have had to have been done right as well. Too many chapters, it would have added time, and Tom himself is confusing for people. I don't like that it was out, but I understand and I agree with the decision to leave it out. Having said that, I will say, I believe this is good enough for a standalone movie itself.
That's
The
what people in the chat are saying too. It could have been
The
its own
Scouring
movie.
of the Shire could be its own movie. They'll have plenty of time to do it. It could be 2 hours. Really get into it, the whole thing. I know that Colbert is doing
Yeah, well,
chapter
we're getting the
3,
shadow of
4,
the
and 5.
past, so why not?
Yeah,
It's very possible that could happen.
I think we're gonna get Shadow of the Past, and I hope he covers Tom Bombadil correctly. Holy crap! And that's going to be a standalone. I think so. Anyway, that's what I think about the standalone opportunity for the Scouring of the Shire. I think we'll see it.
A silly thought. Hey, there were 6 books that Tolkien wrote in 3 volumes. Why not 6 movies next time?
Well, that's always the way that I've presented. And if you remember when we did our special film casting thing in December, I pitched that as being a set of 6 films. Which, by the way, Sid, how have you still not sent me your cast list?
I lost it. I'll keep trying.
Okay, that's fair. See, I wish you would have just told me that because I would have just used the video.
No, I didn't know I lost it.
Yeah.
I've been still been searching for it.
Oh, okay, I got it. Brian Blessed should have played Tom Bombadil. I agree. I agree. That might have even been who I chose. I don't even remember who I chose.
I can just imagine. Yeah, I can just imagine your desk, Sid.
8 months later.
Oh no, it's all on my computer. It's on my hard drive somewhere. I know that.
Yeah.
And it's running really late, guys. I have to duck out.
No, we understand. As a matter of fact, you can go ahead and do that because I'm going to switch over to a different scene right now, which is this one. So you don't even need
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Say goodbye to Sid. That was
nice.
I got to say, I think that overall, this was, and I say, usually Matt's the one to say this, but I'm going to be the one to say it this time. Overall, this might have been one of our best episodes.
I agree. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye, Sid. Because usually what happens is Sid leaves, I stop the stream, me and Matt sit there for a bit, and Matt always says, I think that was one of our best. And I would say, yeah, totally. But this time I'm saying it, damn it.
Well, we have got a lot of good ones, that's for sure, at this point.
I got to catch up on chat. I haven't really been able to look at this properly in a little bit. Let me just see if I missed anything really good. Let's see. Ninetale says if he wanted anybody to know anything about him in chat is that he loves Glorfindel. I mean, like I said, I understand why he was not in the movie. I'm glad he's your favorite character. Look, my favorite character in the entirety of the whole Legendarium was not in The Lord of the Rings. Okay? My second favorite character was only in 2 scenes of The Lord of the Rings. The movie version. In the book, he was only in 1. At least my third favorite character happens to be Gandalf. So, he was in it a lot. And then after that, it's Sam. So, I kind of win there, but yeah. All right, guys, we're gonna end now. So if you're watching on YouTube, the live's gonna end. If you're watching on Twitch, we're gonna raid somebody. But before I get to that, we're gonna go over the schedule for YouTube. The schedule is as thus: we will have 2 more streams this month. On the 13th, which is next month. Listen to me. On the 13th of August, which is next week, a week from today, I will be here. I will have The Return of the King, and we will be reading The Return of the King. What chapter are we even going to be on? I will tell you in just one moment. It is a big one, which is the last debate. That's where we'll be starting, the last debate, which is the last chapter of Book 5. And then we'll be getting into Book 6. So we'll get to know what Frodo and Sam and all that are up to. In 2 weeks, on the 20th, I'll be continuing the Two Towers video game for Game Boy, which is actually really cool. Who was my favorite? In all the Legendarium, the first is Tur. Tur is the major character in The Fall of Gondolin. He's my favorite character. My second favorite, if you were wondering, is Círdan. Okay, go ahead, Matt. If you are watching on Twitch, you guys know the schedule. I'll be live tomorrow afternoon. We will be playing Dragon Quest VII Reimagined. On Saturday it will be Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Sunday it will be Deltarune. I'm doing this from memory. Monday it will be Street Fighter 6. Tuesday it will be Chasm. Wednesday is Power Wash Simulator 2, and of course Thursday I'll be reading Return of the King with you guys. But here we go. Let's go ahead and find somebody that we could raid. Who's online right now? Where are we going to send you guys? Where are we heading off to? Oh my God, Zephyrs playing the Curse of Monkey Island. I might have to choose him because that's hilarious. Yeah, I'm gonna raid Zophar. He is playing the Curse of Monkey Island. It's an old school adventure game with a lot of great humor in it. I do play Street Fighter 6. Who is your main Ninetales? I play Aki. Although I have a fairly decent E Honda, but I play Aki. Let's go ahead and raid Zophar. Let's go ahead and give him a raid message here. This is a little gross, but bear with me. All right, Twitch audience, there is your raid call. Copy that, paste it as we head into Zophar's stream. On YouTube audience, good night, my friends. I love you all. You are so wonderful for hanging out with me and Matt and Sid and enjoying all our passion and our stupid bickering and all that stuff. It's so much fun. I will see you guys next week as well. Ninetales, tell me who you play in Street Fighter 6 before I end. I'm gonna have to end. I'll find out next time. Here we go.